you when you're doing them broadcasts outside. It was very sunny.
We had a brilliant day yesterday up in Carndon.
It sounded
fantastic.
amazing.
Watch it back if you haven't seen it. Watch the show back. Some lovely, lovely people.
Yeah,
it's on our it's on our YouTube channel.
I see you're well fed down there with the buns and everything.
Yeah, the food was great. Super Value, who are upstairs, sent a load of hot food down afterwards.
Brilliant.
So
you enjoyed that afterwards, did you?
Cocktail sausages. I can inhale them. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And
are you a sauce man, are you?
Oh, well, what do you mean?
Do you like red sauce?
Oh, yeah. Well, no. All different types of sauces. Barbecue, garlic, ketchup, brown sauce.
Nice.
Brown sauce is not as popular.
Do you ever mix this? Did you ever mix the sauces?
Well, pink and mayonnaise to red and ketchup and mayonnaise to make pink sauce.
That's all that is, pink sauce.
Yeah, but in some parts, funny, if you ask for pink sauce, in some places you get taco sauce, right?
But you don't go and ask for pink sauce.
No, I'm on about literally. You do geographically in this county.
If you ask for pink sauce
in some places. Pink sauce is taco sauce, and in other places, pink sauce is ketchup and mayonnaise. That is a fact.
What makes it the taco sauce?
Oh, there's
some spice or something.
Spice in it. Yeah, but it's there's literally regional variations within the county of what pink sauce is.
Can I have chips and big pink sauce?
In some places, you get taco sauce.
I know you do get taco sauce.
Maybe I'm talking out my hat. Maybe listeners might be able to confirm that.
Not the first time
that I talked out of the hat that I don't wear out in the sun. Hey, Lee, it's good
have a good show,
back.
right?
See you tomorrow. Yeah, okay. Okay, it is the 9 till noon show, and at 9 o'clock, let's get a news update, and it's over to Donald Kavanagh.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning. The funeral is taking place today of a Lifford businessman who died at Beaumont Hospital in Dublin last week following what's understood to have been a workplace accident. Stephen Martin from Carricknaslate was the owner of Martin Tyres on Bridge Street in Lifford. The Health and Safety Authority says an investigation into the incident is continuing. An extra 2,000 people are needed to donate blood urgently. The Irish Blood Transfusion Service says there's only 3 days' supply left of certain blood groups, including types O negative and B negative. The IBTS aims to keep a 7-day supply in stock at all times. It says it needs 2,000 more donors to come forward and give blood over the next 4 weeks. There are clinics today and tomorrow at the Radisson Blue Hotel in Letterkenny, with full details and times on our website, highlandradio.com. A teenage disability campaigner has spent the night camped out outside Leinster House to highlight long waiting lists for children's assessments of need. 14-year-old Cara Darmody took up her position yesterday while a joint motion was being debated in the Dáil Chamber, calling on the government to take emergency action. Cara says she believes she had no other option.
Basically, there is a law that states that when a child applies for an assessment, that they must be assessed within 6 months of their application for that assessment. And that law is being smashed in over 93% of cases. And in most children's cases, it is taking 5 to 6 years for that assessment.
The Northern Ireland Assembly's been told the electronic travel authorisation requirement is having a negative impact on tourism and should be scrapped. Speaking following the first EU-UK summit since Brexit, Foyle MLA Sinead McLaughlin said there is an integrated tourism offering on the island, and that's being compromised by the ETA.
The electronic travel authorisation must be scrapped. It is doing real and measurable harm to tourism in Northern Ireland. This island has a seamless tourism offer. We cannot allow an artificial barrier to damage livelihoods in this key sector. People here did not vote for Brexit, and we must never stay silent about the damage it has done, not just to our economy, but to the fabric of our society.
And Ireland's energy emissions are at their lowest level in over 30 years. They reduced by 1.3% last year, according to Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland. It now means there's been an overall decrease of 11% since carbon emission targets were introduced in 2021. However, Margie McCarthy, the Director of Research and Policy Insights at SEAI, says with energy usage increasing, there is still more to be done.
We are definitely doing that in the same time as we're seeing an increase in our overall energy use. So our challenge is to try and outpace the rate at which we're growing our energy by accelerating the way in which we're adopting renewable technologies like heat pumps and solar and bioenergy.
And weather forecast mainly dry and sunny today with just a little northerly breeze. Some cloud drifting in at times around the coast. Top temperatures 15 to 18. Tonight staying dry, cloudier with some cloud drifting in later in the night. Feeling cooler as well with a light northerly breeze. Lowest overnight temperatures 4 to 8. That's Highland Radio News. Check all the news on our website, highlandradio.com. But for now, from the news team until 10 o'clock. Good morning.
To to the one who hums songs while walking.
Or dreams quietly with big ideas.
This day is for you.
It's called Crunoon and Oak, and on Saturday, June 7th,
over 1,000 free events will light up the country.
Paint your world with Wonder Walls.
Fly with Circus Explorers.
Step into the spotlight with Youth Theatre Ireland.
Unleash your creative spark.
Find an event near you.
See crinew.gov.ie
in partnership with RTE.
And now, it's time for the talk of the Northwest. The 9 to Noon Show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hello and a very good morning to you. It is 4 minutes past 9 and you're very welcome along to the 9 till noon show on this Wednesday. It's the 21st of May 2025. How are you all keeping? I do hope you're very well indeed. And mentioned it to Lee there just before the news, but we had a fantastic day in Carndonagh yesterday for a fantastic reason as well. It's the daycare services for older people reopened. They've been reopened for 6 weeks now, and they kind of thought they were halfway through a trial period. And as we learnt on the show yesterday, that trial period has effectively been scrapped now because it's been such a success and the feedback was so positive. And hopefully now more people will go and avail of those services, having heard from the people that use them and those that run them as well. Fantastic. But we were looked after really, really well. We were treated like kings and queens, and we had a fantastic, fantastic time. So thank you very much to everyone down in Carndonagh for another fantastic reception. I've done 2 or 3 outside broadcasts from there, and on each occasion you always come away feeling, spoiled rotten. So thank you very much for that. Let's have a look at the papers today, and we're in a situation now where you're face to face with I told you so, because a dangerous pedestrian crossing at Bank of Ireland Ballybofey is to be moved to a safer location nearby as plans to upgrade a number of pedestrian crossings on the N15 at Ballybofey and Stranraer from day one. And I don't think it was actually even concluded. We were on this programme, not just me, but the listeners as well, saying, what in God's name are they doing putting a crossing there at that complicated junction with yellow boxes and an entrance to a car park and traffic coming in and out from the Glenties Road? It made no sense. And this was all sort of part of a trial for the people of Ballybofey and Stranraer and those travelling through it, a new way of pedestrians and traffic sort of interacting. Made no sense at all. Don't know how it ever got painted in and put in place. And thankfully it's going to be moved without serious injury, and that is just pure luck because it should never have been there in the first place. But reading on from the Finn Valley Voice, Donegal County Council held a public information event for the public to view the design proposal on Wednesday the 14th of May at the Base Enterprise Centre. The project proposal included upgrading existing crosses, including the addition of 4 raised tables at specific locations. Modifications will be made to footpaths at other locations along the N15. A number of car parking bays and disabled car parking bays at College Court entrance will be removed as part of the works. The aim is to improve pedestrian safety and create greater awareness of the crossings for motorists. Now, who would have thought we'd end up here? Why don't we do the public consultation on this show? Because what they're doing now is everything that should have been done from the beginning. The people didn't deserve to be experimented on, neither did the motorists either. Okay, so that's good news. Better late than never. On to the Irish Times now, and finally the international community seems to be growing something of a conscience because international pressure is mounting on Israel to end its military offensive in Gaza and to allow in significantly more humanitarian aid. A majority of EU states yesterday backed a proposal to review the union's trade relations with Israel, while Britain suspended talks with the Israelis on a new trade deal. Now, the Israel population is made up of predominantly Jewish people, and, those people endured the Holocaust effectively, millions upon millions of people killed. And of course, too, there was a vote in Europe, Germany not backing some of the EU's moves as it relates to Gaza. They were, for the most part, responsible for that Holocaust. And you would think that those 2 countries in particular would see what they're doing to another group of humans being completely unacceptable. But anyway, maybe this international intervention's too little too late. How many kids have to die? How many kids have to starve? How many women have to be blown to bits just for living in a particular part of the world? Well, Israel's near 3-month blockade of food and aid supplies to the Palestinian enclave has seen a number of EU states rowing behind a fresh effort to pressure it to change its course. Ireland was one of 17 of the EU's 27 states to vote for a review of the bloc's trade agreement with Israel. The shift in the position of several European governments follows dire warnings about conditions inside the Gaza Strip. And again, I would say, a part of me would actually almost like to visit Israel and interact with the population there, because it's just unbelievable that people on block could know that very close to them there are children being starved to death, and they are being starved to death. There's babies that are 15,000 babies are expected to die in the next couple of weeks because there's no baby food. It's very hard to think. I can never put myself in a position of no matter what was done to me, I suppose within reason, to be able to go about my daily business lying on a beach or eating lunch in a nice city, knowing that this is happening so close by. I simply couldn't just square that circle in my own head. I know I couldn't. On to the Irish Daily Mail this morning, and locals and friends of farmer Michael Gain have been left deeply angered and frustrated over the handling of the missing man's case. The suspected remains of the 56-year-old sheep farmer were discovered after machinery was used to spread slurry on his land late last week. This has resulted in new searches being carried out by specialist military personnel at the property just outside Kenmare in Kerry. The discovery of the body parts resulted in the arrest of a man who was known to Mr. Gain. However, that man was released without charge on Monday night, and the investigation remains ongoing. One of the areas sealed off for further examination was just metres away from where Mr. Gain's RAV4 SUV was discovered in the immediate aftermath of his disappearance. Friends and extended family members have been left angered for how long it took to discover his remains. Security sources told the Mail, with many now claiming that the popular farmer should have been discovered sooner. That's a fair assessment, said one well-informed source. These people are angry. They are his friends, extended family, people who have known him decades. So Gardaí appreciate that there is a lot of emotion on that. Is it emotion? It's really like head-scratching. You know, if his remains were always in this place, why weren't they discovered beforehand? Why were they happened upon? Or if they were moved there, I don't know. Why aren't they saying so? Because there is a great deal of public interest in that story, of course. This is an interesting one because, of course, we've become very reliant on masses being streamed, be they regular mass, whether they be, funerals, weddings, in fact. A lot of churches now stream their proceedings online, but churches are taking legal advice about how to avoid being sued over live streamed services after defamation proceedings were issued against two pastors in County Offaly. This is the Irish Independent, by the way. A man who alleged he was defamed by his teenage daughter during a baptism ceremony at Cornerstone Sleeve Bloom Church in Tullamore was awarded €14,400. He took the case against the church's pastors, Gavin von Mollendorf and Wendy von Mollendorf. A group representing 200 evangelical churches in Ireland is now re-examining the live streaming of services. Nick Park, Executive Director of Evangelical Alliance Ireland, said legal advice had been sought to prevent actions of a similar nature being taken. But presumably, anytime you are streaming, like now, for an example, you are responsible for that content and what is said on it. So it might make people think again. Now, there was I asked a lot of questions about Israel's involvement in the Eurovision, and I think a lot of people that I asked it on this programme perhaps didn't get the angle I was coming from, because they were saying, well, it's not really about the song contest, is it? It's about really what's happening in Gaza. And I was trying to say, yeah, it is, but this is not insignificant either. And for one reason or for other, Israel almost won the whole thing. They came second in the end. And there are question marks now over that. But it kind of, with what's going on now, when you have an entire world community effectively saying, this is a song contest and what you're doing mustn't be too bad because we're prepared to almost have you win a song contest, something that's supposed to be fun and frivolous, right? So it was never insignificant, and that's why I was talking about it a little last week or the week before, because I did point out on this program, you might remember, that the last time there were calls for Israel to be banned from the competition, they won it. And the reason I was mentioning that is because I anticipated exactly what happened, that Israel finished very high in the competition. In fact, to be honest with you, I anticipated them winning it again. But the Irish Daily Star and other papers report that Eurovision's voting system could be overhauled after claims of vote rigging. Belgium and Spain said the system, where people can vote up to 20 times, is open to manipulation, and an RTE spokesperson confirmed it had requested a breakdown in voting numbers from the European Broadcasting Union and its voting partner once. Referencing a statement from Martin Green, director of the Eurovision Song Contest, RTE added it looked forward to participating in the discussion and review outlined within the statement. Now, it has to be said, I think Ireland awarded Israel 7 points or something. That doesn't mean tens of thousands of people voted, because there are so many acts that it would only require a little bit of manipulation of those 20 votes for them to get so many points, because people really aren't that engaged. There's 225,000 people watching. How many are going to vote? What, 50,000? No, nowhere near that. Probably 20,000, 15, 10,000. We'll find out. And as I say, all the votes are spread over 26 countries. So it doesn't take an awful lot of manipulation for Israel to, in Ireland, for an example, to go up the ranks. But that will all be investigated, I am sure. But as I say, it's insignificant, but also given the way the world is now, it's not insignificant, because it was almost like a sort of an endorsement of what's going on. I wonder if any members of the LGB community are listening to this show and have a say on this, because Conor Sheehan, he's admitted he would not feel comfortable holding a partner's hand in any Irish city due to increased toxicity towards members of the LGBT community. He made the comments just hours after the Labour Party event to celebrate 10 years since the marriage equality referendum passed had to be hastily moved to a different venue. The party suggested there had been far-right threats and a protest planned outside the event on Monday evening. Speaking in Leinster House yesterday morning, Senator Laura Harman said the original venue pulled out because it was worried about the health and safety of their staff. The Gardaí later advised Labour to move venues. Sheehan, Labour TD for Limerick City, said he had been subjected to increased levels of homophobic abuse since becoming a public rep. Now, is that online? Which is completely inexcusable, but there are bots. We have the highest rate of bots in this country. So they are, I think 78% of online activity in Ireland in terms of X and other platforms is not real. They're AI bots effectively that push certain narratives and certain agendas. And that's why if people had to use their ID, it would get rid of a lot of that. But anyway, I'm just wondering if you are a member of that community, if you would be more cautious now in Ireland, in your own country, with public displays of affection and what have you. If that's something that you want to talk about, let us know. 086 60 25,000, 086 60 25,000, or call us on 074 91 25,000. And two, I noticed actually, sorry to rant, I'll cut off this, I'll go on to the next part of the program very shortly, but I was on TikTok, and there's one account there that's using AI technology to create videos, and it's really, it's quite good, right? But it's clearly AI technology. And it's of a young girl purporting to be Irish, and she's talking about immigration and all this type of stuff. And she's directing people to a website. And there are dozens and dozens of comments underneath it, and thousands of likes. And no one's actually realised that it's AI. They think, fair play to you, great to see the youth of Ireland speaking out, remarkable stuff. And it's completely clearly AI generated, because the same image is used with 3 or 4 different accents on sister accounts of that account. And there's loads of other AI generated content as well. But it's being fed to young people. So it's not even real young people speaking. It's artificially intelligence created young people with Irish accents. But what I don't get is that people don't realise that. They're not calling out online unless the comments are being deleted. Finally, Gardaí couldn't find the clothes Joseph Puska wore when he murdered Aisling Murphy because his sister-in-law had burned them, the Central Criminal Court has heard. 4 family members of Joseph Puska, who has been convicted of murdering the 23-year-old, are on trial accused of withholding information and assisting him. Sean Gillane, Senior Counsel for the Director of Public Prosecutions, told the jury that Puska, 36, is not an accused in this trial, but that he looms very large. On the afternoon of January 12, 22, Joseph Puska attacked Miss Murphy, a young school teacher, on the Canal towpath in County Offaly. She died having suffered 12 sharp force injuries to her neck, 11 of which were stabbed wounds. The investigation was ongoing, and now some family members of his are in court. Marek Puska, Josefina Grandova, his brother Lubomir, and Viera, who's accused of lighting the clothes of his sister-in-law. The 4 of them are in court, accused of sort of aiding and abetting. I think they deny the charges. Okay, that was a run through some of the stories on the front pages and inside the papers today.
Daily newspapers are courtesy of Cosgrove, Centra and Diner, Mountaintop, Letterkenny.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Digital loans now available. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
Hello, I'm Johnny Cash.
Walk the line with the award-winning Johnny Cash and June Carter tribute show Cash Returns, live at the Everglades Hotel Derry on Saturday 24th of May. Tickets available on eventbrite.ie. That's Cash Returns at the Everglades Hotel Derry on Saturday 24th of May.
A public interest message from Donegal County Council. Householders and building owners in areas susceptible to wildfires are advised to cut back or remove any vegetation or other combustible material in the vicinity of their house, building or oil tank to prevent wildfires damaging or destroying their property. Cleared areas should be maintained free of vegetation and combustible material. Donegal County Council would also like to remind landowners and members of the public that under the Wildlife Acts 1976 and 2000, it is an offence to cut, grub, burn or otherwise destroy any vegetation growing on any land not then cultivated between the 1st day of March and the 31st day of August in any year. Members of the public are also reminded that the burning of domestic, industrial, agricultural and construction waste is an offence under the Waste Management Act 1996. Donegal County Council, protecting your environment.
Celebrate your love at Encourage Hotel, nestled in the heart of Donegal. With breathtaking views of Errigal Mountain and elegant surroundings, our venue offers the perfect setting for your special day. Experience exceptional service and create unforgettable memories. Discover more at encouragehotel.com.
Charge into summer with TUI. Choose from a beach cruise or city break or Mexico flying direct from Dublin. Holiday sorted. TUI, live happy.
Highland Radio Time Checks brought to you by EirGrid, the operator and developer of Ireland's electricity grid. EirGrid, powering up communities, powering up Ireland. The time is...
Okay, 21 minutes past 9. I'm joined in studio now by Independent County Councillor Declan Meehan. You don't need those now. Good morning, Declan. Thanks so much for calling in.
Good morning, Greg.
How are you keeping?
Good, thanks.
Right, now you've been digging in a little deeper to the haematology situation at Letterkenny University Hospital, and what information have you now been provided with?
Yeah, so at the last Regional Health Forum meeting, I had asked for the wait times and wait numbers, those patients waiting on appointments at Letterkenny University Hospital compared to other hospitals across the Western and Northwestern region. We've 676 people in Donegal on the waiting list for haematology appointment, and 200 of them are waiting for over a year. When you compare that to Mayo, as an example, you have the wait time of 1 month, and you have no one really waiting any longer than that. In Sligo, there's 363 on the waiting list, and there's 51 waiting for more than a year. Even in Galway, there's 566 on the waiting list, and only 36 waiting more than a year. So it shows that people have, yet again, much worse wait times in Letterkenny and across Donegal.
Remind our listeners, and some will be acutely aware, an example as to why you might be referred to haematology.
Yeah, so I suppose haematology is around anything to do with blood disorders. So that'll include lymphomas, leukemia and anything else. And some of them require urgent attention, and some of them are, I suppose, more slow burners that require regular kind of checkups. And a lot of that isn't happening. And I know that haematologists and the haematology team in Letterkenny in particular feel extremely overwhelmed by the level of work that they have to do, and they're not getting neither the senior nor the junior support that they need. So they don't have an adequate number of registrars and junior doctors in the haematology team to help with that appointments workload. And that's what's driving up the wait times for people. And that then also has an impact on the emergency department, because GPs will have to send people into the emergency department in order to be seen because they're not being seen enough as outpatients, or the time is taking too long for them to get an appointment. And that just affects everyone then, because anyone who is going to the emergency department is competing with people who should be seen as outpatients, and that's across all disciplines.
Yeah, so what have the HSE said in terms of improving services in this area?
Yeah, they've said that they're trying to recruit an additional haematology consultant. And while that is welcome, this is the answer to everything. And absolutely, additional human resources in any kind of discipline of medicine in the hospital is very welcome. But it's more that we actually need a review of the team and how it operates.
But just, is there a vacancy there?
Well, there's...
Or when they say the hospital's making every effort to recruit a third haematologist, is that a funded position, or are they trying to make the case within the HSE for an additional haematologist?
That information wasn't provided to me,
because,
so yeah.
I've been doing a little
big difference.
Yeah, exactly. And I've been doing a little bit of digging as to how some of these positions are approved.
Mm-hmm.
And how far up the chain it goes is crazy. And the arguments that have to be made. It's not the local manager. It's not CLTA. It's not even the head of the HSE.
Mm-hmm.
What's that? CAC.
Mm-hmm.
They have to make the recommendation. They have to receive a recommendation to approve some of these positions. And sometimes with all the campaigning right down at our local level, that recommendation doesn't get to them because there is another red line there that has to be crossed. It is crazy how difficult it is to get, particularly to Letterkenny, these positions approved. Look how long it took to get the breast surgeon that position approved. That took forever, and it was only approved on the day before the health minister came to Donegal after years.
Mm-hmm.
So, is there has the need for an additional haematologist been recognised? And are we trying to actively recruit one? And this is the quagmire that's the HSE, Declan.
Absolutely.
I know you know you struggle to get the same answers that we do, and you're an elected rep, right?
Yeah.
So we don't really know that at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Are we at the start of the journey, or are we close to the end? And also funding. LUH is seeking to secure long-term funding to allow this to happen as well. That's also a problem.
Yeah, funding is a huge issue, and as you've pointed out there, the systems that are currently in place for approval, for allocating funding for any post are far too arduous and far too complicated and take too long. That is not a functional health system. A functional health system should be able to react quickly and adapt quickly, and we have the absolute opposite of that. And the people who suffer as a result of that ultimately are patients. And over the past year since I've been on the Regional Health Forum, what I have unfortunately been able to illustrate is that Donegal patients are at the raw end of that deal time and time again. When you do a comparison across the Western and Northwestern region, they have the worst wait times for home help, for physio, for OT, for cancer treatment. The list goes on, and unfortunately I think the list will go on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about time that we have to call time on it.
Yes. Well,
we had a meeting last night.
Go ahead, Declan, yep.
Regional Health Forum meeting members, with Oireachtas members with the HSE, and it was in relation to surgical capacity at LUH. And obviously this is a huge issue around the surgical hub, and it's yet another example of Letterkenny being left behind, and we have countless evidence to show that. We need the HSE to stop and listen. We need them to take a step back and say, hold on a minute, what is going on here? And do something about it. What was amazing last night, Greg, was every single politician that was on that call was on the same page. And I think that there's strength in that. And I think that that's something that we need to leverage and capitalise on to deliver results for the people of Donegal.
I
because
put it to the health minister that, we need more funding. And she says, what do you mean we need more funding? I'll have to look into that because we've, it's had one of the biggest increases in funding in recent years. But in recent years, the hospital has 19 million in the red one year, 10 million in the red another year, 9 million in the red another year. What does that mean? So how, when we talk about additional funding, and you have the hospital, unless I'm mistaken, but the figures I saw seem to indicate the hospital was short 19, 10 and 10 million. What does that mean to its funding going forward? Yeah. Or, you know what, I don't know the answer to that question, but they're talking about seeking additional funding for a third haematologist, yet it seems to be underfunded hand over fist.
Yeah, absolutely. Hand over fist time and again.
The more I look into it, the more of a basket case the whole thing becomes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is, like, the crux of the matter there is there has to be an actual assessment of how Letterkenny University Hospital...
There's no registrar at Letterkenny.
No.
There's not a single registrar there.
And so it needs to be looked at in terms of like how the hospital is run, how it's managed, how it's operating, a root and branch review of it. Because everything is there to show that it is not invested into the same extent as Sligo or Galway, for example.
I think there is some work going on in the background, looking at the KPIs and its funding and all that type of stuff. Will that be listened to? I don't know. You would hope it might be, but it will lay bare the situation. It's very, very difficult, and as I say, this even goes above the Sealta head's head.
Yeah, absolutely, it does. And I think that what we need, though, from the HSE West and Northwest management and hospital management
is to call it out.
And for them to be on the same side as us. We can't have people blindly defending the HSE's structures and the HSE's processes and policies if they're not working and not delivering for patients. And that is exactly what we need. And we're not seeing evidence of that yet. And it's frustrating, but that's the job of us as public representatives now moving forward, is to put pressure so that campaign formulates, because ultimately it's the people of Donegal, not anywhere else, who are getting the raw deal here.
Well, that's it. And you know, it's never lost in the conversation. Both you and I know exactly what we're talking about is real people here and the impact it has on their lives. And why, if you are a patient of Letterkenny University Hospital with a serious condition that requires haematology, why would you be waiting for ages when someone who's associated with the Mayo General Hospital or University has virtually no wait at all?
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? That you can't be so geographically disadvantaged, surely. This listener says, my wife is waiting almost 2.5 years for a haematology appointment. The hospital send a letter every 4 months or so to see if she's still interested. I mean, what are we waiting on?
Yeah, and it was in the response of the HSE to my question as well, was around, you know, we're checking in with patients basically to see if they still require an appointment. I mean, it is ludicrous. It's a dysfunctional and a broken system. And as I say, it's not just around haematology, unfortunately. And what we have then is not only patients being disadvantaged, but you have staff working in a really, really difficult environment.
That's it, and that then is where recruitment and retention comes into it.
Yeah, and they're huge issues.
And also too, I think someone who's waiting 2.5 years on a haematology appointment, to send them a letter every 4 months to see if they still need it, actually is cruel.
Yeah.
I think that's actually cruel, because every time that letter comes, you wonder, is this it?
Yeah.
And it's just to sort of say effectively, maybe you've magically cured, maybe you're dead. I don't know what they're waiting on.
Absolutely, yeah. It is cruel. Like, you could imagine the worry that people have when they're waiting on appointments like that. And what we're talking about, let's be clear as well, is these are public waiting lists. These are people who don't have access to private healthcare.
Yeah.
So that's a huge inequality there in itself.
Yeah, we really need to keep digging deeper on the whole funding of Letterkenny University Hospital and how it's treated and who's making these calls as it relates to the hospital about, say, for instance, the appointment of professionals from colleges, for an example. You know, how many are being approved here compared to elsewhere? It's very low here, it has to be said. Whilst I have you in, not wishing to stereotype you or pigeonhole you, I did read a little earlier on. Now, you see, I don't do public acts of affection. I don't know about you, but I mean, I'm not really that type. So I look at this and I go, well, I don't want to do it anyway. So,
Sure.
but we heard from a TD that suggested, you're a member of the LGBT community, that he feels cautious about, say, holding hands with his partner, same-sex partner, in cities now because of the changing attitude towards members of the LGBT plus community. Do you recognise? I mean, obviously we recognise his concerns. That's his lived experience. But has there been a change, do you think?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that this week marks the 10th anniversary of marriage equality. And I think that was a huge turning point for the LGBT community in general in Ireland. And it has had a knock-on effect internationally, never mind just in Ireland. And I think that there was a period there where, it was kind of a golden era. And I think that there is a turn again away from that. Now, I'm not hugely into public displays of affection myself, right? But I would feel much more confident doing that on the streets of Letterkenny than I would on the streets of Dublin.
Yeah.
And this is from someone who lived in Dublin for 8 years and was always comfortable. I think Dublin has changed, and I think that there are certain attitudes which are being emboldened and given permission by the current climate that we are living in and living through. And that poses a threat to people's safety. I mean, the amount of attacks relating to homophobia and transphobia, particularly in Dublin and in Belfast, have gone hugely up over the past number of years. And I don't have the exact statistics, obviously, because I'm not prepared to speak on it. But
yeah, but also too, we're seeing them popping up on TikTok or what have you. Someone who's had that experience on a night out.
So there's definitely been a bit of a sea change, and I think that is more prevalent in the cities perhaps than in the countryside. And it's a real shame to see that, because I mean the beauty and the I suppose how joyous the marriage equality referendum was 10 years ago was that it was sending such a strong message to young people who were growing up and coming out about how acceptable and welcomed and everything that they are in Irish society. And there's definitely a change. Over the past few years.
But that doesn't necessarily mean there's been a change in the general population's attitude. It could be that there are a small group of people who might punch you in the face because they don't like your haircut.
Yeah,
but they
absolutely.
feel that this is a justifiable reason to target another individual. Do you know what I mean? Rather than it being reflective of...
Definitely.
We're less likely to see someone behave like that in Letterkenny because of the population. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And I think that, look, it applies to everything. I think we're living in a time where people feel more emboldened, a minority of people, absolutely, to be homophobic, transphobic, racist, sexist, whatever it is.
Because every second house is going to have someone in that community.
Absolutely.
Really, if the truth be told, right?
Yeah,
It
for
doesn't have
sure.
to be a son or a daughter. It could be your nephew or niece. So with that in mind, I can't imagine a massive across the population sea change in attitude. It just means that some
people are becoming more emboldened and more vocal.
Is it possible that the big focus on the trans community and the big pushback against the trans community, be it the Supreme Court ruling in the UK, what's happening in the United States, the whole conversation about access to bathrooms and what have you, and all that kind of stuff, and the stuff that's in the school curriculum, etc. Is it possible that because because it's seen as a whole spectrum of the communities, you've got lesbian and gay and bisexual people with trans and queers and others, that means that the advancement of rights for the LGBT community have regressed?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I think that the attitudes towards trans people, I think, come from the same place as everything else that we're talking about. And I think that there's an awful lot of scapegoating about a tiny minority of people and fear-mongering around the existence of trans people. And 99.9% of the people who are doing that have probably never met a trans person. And that would be my concern around it. And the threat seems like it's ridiculous.
I think what complicates it, though, is that and from what I see, a lot of women are opining on the trans issue is that they aren't actually extremist or what have you. Is that an important and a very important group of people that should be protected, that their rights are elevated above 50% of the population. So in other words, their rights to access, say for instance, facilities that match their gender, their rights are being held, say for instance in the case of women, whereby a person can, and in this country you can just self-identify, right, that their rights are being held higher than those of women who might feel uncomfortable with a trans woman in their space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that is a complicating factor, but I think that there's no evidence to back that up though, Greg.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the issue that I have with those opinions, is show me the evidence where the trans woman is sneaking into X, Y, and Z.
It's not sneaking.
Well,
people
feel threatened.
There are people who identify as trans women that aren't undergoing hormonal treatment, no corrective surgery, that are in Donegal using female spaces. I don't know. I'm not a woman, and I'm not in there. I don't know, but I do know that some women might find that might feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, and look, I understand that as well, but I think that we can all feel uncomfortable about things, but sometimes there can be a good reason for it, and sometimes maybe there's not a good reason for it. I do think that there is an awful lot of noise, specifically noise, around the trans issue and people identifying as trans. And I think to bring it back to what you'd initially asked, does that kind of debate or that discussion, and I don't think anyone's existence should be debated or discussed in this way, really, does that affect people's perceptions of LGBT?
I don't believe it's, sorry.
No,
I
it's
want
not
you to
that
answer
you're doing
question,
that.
But I don't think it's actually their, in fairness, I don't think it's their existence. It's maybe the spaces in which they go into. Because I hope most people want people to live their best lives.
Yeah, and to do so safely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were going to say about...
But just, you had asked if it's affecting kind of attitudes towards LGBT people in general. And I think there is a correlation there. I think that absolutely is... Look, we've seen from, various kind of sources over the past number of years, this kind of anti-woke and calling anything that's progressive or liberal woke, and that's kind of become a dirty word. And that's attached to everything then. So when people are discriminating or whatever against trans people, that has a knock-on effect because it's sliding into LGBT people, but also women. Like this is also a conversation that affects women, not just about their safety or their unease, maybe about sharing spaces with trans women, but it's about the very people who are raising those concerns, who are not female, who are male, who pose threats to women as well. So I think the whole thing is linked, and I think that there's a lot of...
Yeah, I think even if there's no evidence that anything ever bad has ever happened, there are things I have difficulty processing, and that would be a trans woman in a swimming pool changing room with young girls and other women, especially if they're identifying as trans lesbian and have gone through none of the
But
anyway, as I say, I'm not in that space.
That's your
and I don't
concern.
have a daughter.
That's and as in, just because someone is trans or because they're LGBT does not mean that they're a threat to anyone. And I think that's important to point out.
Yeah, exactly. It was talking specifically of trans, but I understand exactly what you're saying. Okay. Listen, thanks for that.
Thank you very much.
Two actually really quite important issues, and the reason I'm a big advocate of actually us having proper conversations about that stuff rather than not, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely.
And it's just by coincidence you happened to be in when that story was in. Thanks so much for raising the haematology issue. I know you'll keep working on that. We'll keep making our inquiries, and have a great day. Thanks so much for coming.
Thanks, Greg.
Take care.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering mortgages from €40,000 to €600,000 with no hidden fees or transaction charges. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102127.
is here and so is the hottest sale of the year at Easy Living Furniture. Absolutely everything reduced across sofa, dining, bedroom, mattress and accessories. The spectacular summer sale is now on at Easy Living Furniture, Crescent Link Retail Park, Derry.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, Easy Living has it all. Easy Living Furniture. Luxury furnishings, affordable luxury.
PDO thread lifts and skin boosters, which rejuvenate the skin by improving facial contours, lifting and tightening the jowls, neck, cheeks and eyebrows, are available at Genesis Aesthetics and Skincare Clinic, Gweedore. To choose the right aesthetic treatment for you, contact Mary Ferry, your aesthetic practitioner. Also offering fat dissolving treatments, dermal fillers and laser treatments for all skin conditions. Hair and makeup packages also available. Genesis Aesthetics and Skincare Clinic, Gweedore. 07495 325 75.
Calling all self-builders and rebuilders. Are you planning to build an A-rated energy-efficient home? Join Castle Forums for a free information day this Saturday at the Clannery Hotel, Letterkenny from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Build faster, warmer and more cost-effectively with ICF walls and insulated foundations from Castle Forums.
Hosa give blood punkai gur féidirlinn bheith bratharaibh. Pobl don't thóirí folla dorgaid, le bheith fáil do ghine eile agus iad de grú chás. Is féidir le don't thóirí rialta chuine I dhéanamh ag giveblood.ie. Nú tríd gléach a chur a héan a hocht a náid, a seach a trí a héan a trí a seacht. Tá sé fíorthach don't thóirí nó aimsú. Tuair cuairt RCF Gréasáin, chuin incháilehocht agus sunraí clinicí a cheacáil, Tommy de Brahart.
Step out of the ordinary and into the new Lexus LBX, because this is the luxury compact SUV reimagined in every detail, where style, elegance and innovation define a new kind of driving experience. It's your world. Make it extraordinary. Experience the new LBX Hybrid at your Lexus retailer, available with a range of flexible payment options. Lexus. Experience amazing.
Your local dealer is Lexus Letterkenny.
Caller says, what a great show yesterday, Greg. You should do your show from other towns in Inishowen, make it a monthly thing to show our lovely towns and people, etc. Well, it's not just my show, of course, our show. We're out and about all of the time in different communities right across Donegal and Derry and Tyrone. We do that all the time. And we are out and about more in the summer because obviously the weather and what have you. So we will be out in different places. Don't worry about that. And as I say, it's not just this show. John Bresson is out and about. David James as well, and others. Rory on a Saturday, and Paul as well. So we do be out and about. Don't worry about that. Right, now, the Buncrana Civil Registration Office is to reopen. There was a pushback on this. Amongst those pushing back was Sinn Féin Councillor and Cahirlock of the Inishowen Municipal District, Jack Murray. Good morning to you, Jack.
Good morning, Greg.
Right, okay, so it's going back to the primary care centre in Buncrana, and that's from today. How important is this, do you think?
I think it's massively important. Now, it's only one day a week for now on a Wednesday by appointment only, but it's a massive step in the right direction. And look, I would have spoken about this on your show in the past when the decision was made to close it, and what outlined the importance, particularly the likes of people from Mallinhead, North Inishowen, would have to travel the whole way to Letterkenny to avail of this service. Look, it just isn't acceptable, particularly for older people. Now, this is the birth, deaths and marriages office, so obviously a lot of people that will have passed will have elderly family members, relatives, and to expect those people to make that long journey was just unacceptable to me. So I'm delighted. It's a U-turn, because they had said at the time it was closing that they weren't going to reverse this decision, but at that time myself, Paddy McLaughlin, would have made repeated representations to the HSE, and in fairness now to other local representatives, or all local representatives who represent Buncrana, all made similar representations. And through your own show, we had a platform to voice the concerns of the people, and thankfully the HSE have heard that call and made this decision, and from today on the service is restored one day a week.
But with that in mind, you and Porrick and others and Austin, whatever it might be, might perceive there's a demand there, and this is another stripping of services from Buncrana or Inishowen. So really we're in this situation again, that we're in a trial period here. Really the HSE is putting it up to the community and those who campaign for this return. let's see how much it is actually used, albeit one day a week over the next 3 months, because this is a trial U-turn, so to speak. Am I framing that correctly?
Yeah, and that's a key point, and I would encourage everybody to use this as much as possible when necessary. The HSE have said this has been reviewed every 3 months, so let's not give them an excuse to close this. Let's not let them say that the numbers aren't enough and that people aren't availing of it. Make sure you make your appointment. Make sure that you when needed, that you use our service in our peninsula in Buncrana. It's in the primary care centre, so look, you can book in advance every Wednesday. Keep the number strong, and hopefully we can get this expanded. They've U-turned on this already. Hopefully we can get expanded and made permanent rather than just this rolling 3 month review.
Yeah, but it is that old phrase, use it or lose it again, unfortunately. You can make an appointment. We have the numbers here, actually. There's 3 of them, and there's no point me listing them off now because people aren't sitting there with a pen and paper. But you can make an appointment if you want to register a birth or a death. What else can you do? You obviously register your marriage and stuff.
And marriages as well, yeah, some registration, yeah.
So people know exactly what the situation is. All right, Jack, thanks for your time. I appreciate it. Take care of yourself. So that is welcomed news, but if it's not used to the extent that requires the service to be there, and I'm not sure what the figure is from a HSE perspective, they can justifiably then say, right, there isn't the demand, and you can either travel to Letterkenny or do it online. Right, the proper menu name for pink sauce is rosemary sauce, and it's the sauce traditionally served with prawn cocktail. That comes from Anne in Gortley. Yes, of course, but I think in terms of that sauce, there might be a bit of lime through it. Am I correct, Anne? I'm talking about just straight up ketchup and mayonnaise, and as I say, certainly in South Donegal, it's pink sauce. You'd never get taco sauce if you asked for pink sauce, but you are correct, rosemary sauce. But as I say, I think there's if you give the kids rosemary sauce now, they wouldn't want it because there's lime or something else through it. I can't remember quite what's through it, but you are correct. That's its origins, no doubt about that. Right. It's obvious the state wants to depopulate Donegal, says a listener. Otherwise, the health service would be there. Why are the TDs not complaining? Where's Pat the Cope and McConaughey? Why don't you ask them as they are in the government? Well, Minister Pat the Cope, Deputy Pat the Cope Gallagher was quite vocal on the health service in the lead up to the health minister coming to Donegal. I didn't see Charlie McConaughey during her visit, and he was of the view, I believe it was said to me, that her visit was just a photo op, and that's why he and other reps didn't attend. A caller says, we are treated as second class in Donegal. Letterkenny Hospital never gets its fair share of services and staff. We seem to be screwed all the time. And can I add something on there? I don't actually think sometimes it's second class. I think it's third or fourth class, because you have some hospitals that there's no waiting times or no issues. You have others where there are waits and issues, but they're within sort of, boundaries that are set. And then you have us, whereby when you compare some of the stats for us compared to other hospitals, particularly other Model 3 hospitals, it's off the charts. So if you don't mind me saying, I think there's like leagues. There's the Premier League, Division 1, and arguably we're in Division 2. A caller says it's unacceptable that someone who went to Ballykelly for an operation is now waiting over 6 months on her refund from Letterkenny. I took out a loan of €10,000 for this, and I'm just about making the repayments. Why is a refund taking so long? Well, what communications are you getting back? Certainly, if it was me, I'd get on to the Ombudsman, who's a particular interest in relation to this. If you call us back, we'll get you the details of his office, and maybe they can chase it up for you. You shouldn't be waiting that long. I wonder why. Are they quibbling with you, or what's the story? If we can be of any further assistance, let us know. I know exactly what you're saying. You took out that loan believing it'd be settled in a matter of weeks. Now it's 6 months on. Not easy at all. Get back in touch with us. We'll try and put you in contact with the Ombudsman's office. Hi, is it okay for a man who identifies as a woman to enter a woman's changing room? Is there no safety for women and girls these days? Oh, they say, how is it okay? That's the big convo, and it's a controversial one. There's just absolutely no doubt about that. But in this country, you can sort of self-identify. It's different in other countries where you need a gender recognition certificate and what have you. But I don't believe you need one in this country. Councillor Meehan said there's no evidence of trans men using female toilets. Well, okay, I'll read the comment and then I'll come back on this first line. If a young female girl feels uncomfortable, then it's an issue. Females are entitled to voice their individual concerns and not accept group mentality. He never said there was no evidence of trans women using female toilets. I think what he said is that there's no evidence that it's a danger, or there's no evidence that it's a threat. I don't believe I'm misquoting him, but I know for a fact that it happens. So, and Councillor Meehan does too. All right, back with the weather.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, with monster loans available up to €60,000 for all occasions. Visit letterkennycu.ie.
Mr. Blue Sky, please tell us why. The Lotto jackpot is an estimated €4.5 million. Play responsibly, in-store, in-app or at lottery.ie. The National Lottery. It could be you.
Great news for Expressway Route 32 passengers. From May 25th, Expressway is increasing services to 12 daily departures between Letterkenny and Dublin, including stops at Monaghan and Dublin Airport. Catch the new midnight departure from Letterkenny, perfect for early morning flights. And a late evening service from Dublin to get you home after catching up with friends. Enjoy free Wi-Fi, power sockets and comfortable seating. Visit expressway.ie to view the new timetable and book your journey today. Expressway. Way better.
Jace Medical is now open in Letterkenny, offering expert-led medical assessments and diagnosis in a modern private healthcare setting. Fast appointments, trusted care, and a clinic designed around you. Book today at jacemedical.ie. Jace Medical. Informed health, empowered life.
It's the perfect time to trade up with Opel. Whether you're in the market for a diesel, petrol, hybrid or all-electric, find your perfect 252 from the incredible Opel range. Order your new Corsa, Astra, Mokka or Grandland during the Opel 252 trade-up event and enjoy flexible payment options plus a €1,000 trade-up bonus. Opel's trade-up event. Find out more at Manor Motors Opel. See manormotors.ie for details. Terms and conditions apply. €1,000 trade-up contribution can be used as a trade-in or deposit booster.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhenney's. Get set for summer with all new arrivals dropping every week, from fashion to footwear and homeware to cosmetics. Discover more in-store or shop online at mcelhenneys.com today.
Right, let's see what the weather forecast holds for us. Some early morning mist and fog has cleared now at this point for the most part. Sunshine will be... Let me start again. Early morning mist and fog has cleared, as plenty of sunshine spreads throughout, mainly dry too, with just a little northerly breeze, but a little cloud will drift in at times around the coast. Highest temperatures 15 to 18 degrees. Tonight, 4 to 8 degrees. It'll feel a little bit cooler with that light northerly. And tomorrow, bright and sunny from early morning. Plenty of dry weather too. Cloud, though, will push in from the west later in the morning, however, but it will stay dry through the afternoon and evening. Temperatures 15 to 19 degrees. So today and tomorrow, pretty nice. Things changing a little bit on Friday and over the weekend. Showers, you know, that sort of situation. I'm a landlord with a house rented out to a young woman with a child. This young family, who applied for the HAP system, are waiting since January and being made jump hoops to get on the scheme. She's going nowhere. I've tried the system on her behalf and going nowhere too. I was contacted by a Ukrainian family. She told me she can have it within 2 weeks, plus my Irish family gets €470, the foreign nationals 800, though that's been dropped to 6. When is this country going to wake up? My Irish family work but still meet the criteria for HAP. Don't know. I think it's waking up. As I say, there are changes to those rules. I mean, some of the rent that's being paid out there at the moment is unbelievable. It's really driving up the rental market, that extra 800 cash free in the system, you know. Like, I would have heard stories of Ukrainian families moving out of hotel accommodation, paying 12, 13, 1400 euro in rent per month. That's what landlords are able to get, and I'm not talking in the heart of Letterkenny here either. And that's bound to put the price of rent generally up, because there's an extra 800 cash free or tax free in play, and they are topping up. There's no doubt about that. That's going to be reduced to 6, but it's still having an impact, a difficult impact on the system, no doubt about it. Especially given the short supply of housing that exists. Hi, Greg. It's beyond time we hold our councillors to account, as they've failed to address the impact of iPass centres on Donegal. They still seem intent on ignoring it, hoping it goes away. Their silence, they say, is aiding the destruction of our country. Okay, that's a view that comes in similarly worded quite regularly. OK, we'll be back with more on the 9 till noon show after we take a break for the news and obituary notices.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
Sprain, minor injury, cuts, burns, just not feeling well. Skip the hospital long wait. Get seen fast at the Ophidia Minor Injuries and Illness Clinic located at Scally Place, Letterkenny. No appointment needed, just walk in. We're open Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Charges will apply. Pay and reclaim with PHI. Ophidia, expert care when you need it. Visit ophidia.ie for more.
Atlantic Travel, Donegal's official booking agent for Princess Cruises. Set sail on elegant ships to sun-soaked Mediterranean coasts or embark on the ultimate Alaskan adventure. Luxury, discovery and world-class service await. Atlantic Travel, your voyage begins with us.
Summer Sounds at Harvey's Point. Every Wednesday from May the 21st until June the 25th, a magical evening of music, song and dance from some of Ireland's greatest stars. Gourmet dinner, the warmest of welcomes. Don't delay. Book today. harveyspoint.com or 074 972 2208. That magical evening on the shores of Loch Esk awaits.
My home is my castle. My sing in the shower place or work in my undies place. My pizza for breakfast, cornflakes for dinner place. My home is my me place.
With AXA Home Insurance, you can protect the place where you can truly be yourself and get 24-hour emergency home assistance as standard. Get a quote online or call into your local branch. AXA. Know you can. Policy terms and conditions apply. AXA Insurance Stock is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
The school holidays are almost here, making it the ideal time to start your child's orthodontic journey at Blue Poppy Dental and Orthodontics in Letterkenny or Donegal Town. Book a summer appointment today and get ahead for September with braces, aligners and expert care all under one roof. Book now by calling Blue Poppy on 074 97 40404.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock. Donald Kavanagh at the news desk. A member of the Regional Health Forum West says latest figures he's been given show the need for a review of haematology services at Letterkenny University Hospital, along with the immediate appointment of at least one more haematologist. Councillor Declan Meehan sought details of wait times at various hospitals across the region, and on this morning's 9 till noon show, he told Greg that the findings were stark.
We've 676 people in Donegal on the waiting list for haematology appointment. 200 of them are waiting for over a year. When you compare that to Mayo as an example, you have the wait time of 1 month and you have no one really waiting any longer than that. In Sligo, there's 363 on the waiting list and there's 51 waiting for more than a year. Even in Galway, there's 566 on the waiting list and only 36 waiting more than a year. People have, yet again, much worse wait times in Letterkenny and across Donegal.
The funeral is taking place today of a Lifford businessman who died in Beaumont Hospital in Dublin last week following what's understood to have been a workplace accident. Stephen Martin from Carricknaslate was the owner of Martin Tyres on Bridge Street in Lifford. The Health and Safety Authority says an investigation into the incident is continuing. An extra 2,000 people are needed to donate blood urgently. The Irish Blood Transfusion Service says there's only 3 days supply left in certain blood type groups, including O negative and B negative. The IBTS intends to keep a 7-day supply in stock at all times. It says it needs 2,000 more donors to come forward to give blood over the next 4 weeks. There are clinics today and tomorrow at the Radisson Blu Hotel in Letterkenny with full details and times available on our website highlandradio.com. A teenage disability campaigner has spent the night camped out outside Leinster House to highlight long waiting lists for children's assessments of need. 14-year-old Cara Darmody took up her position yesterday while a joint motion on the issue was being debated in the Dáil, calling on the government to take emergency action. Cara says she felt she had no other option than to take to the streets.
Basically, there is a law that states that when a child applies for an assessment, that they must be assessed within 6 months of their application for that assessment. And that law is being smashed in over 93% of cases. And in most children's cases, it is taking 5 to 6 years for that assessment.
A senior local authority official is urging people to boycott the owners of holiday homes this summer. The Director of Services for Housing and Roads at Mayo County Council sent an email to members of his local authority committee last week urging the community to boycott holiday home owners. Tom Gilligan says the properties are left empty for large parts of the year and should instead be brought into use to help solve the housing crisis. He says he's not trying to demonise holiday home owners.
When you have 6,000 homes in Mayo that are vacant for 9, 10, 11 months of the year in the middle of a housing crisis, it's morally wrong. You know, we have young people that are staying at home, they're living at home with mom and dad, that have been in the same room all their lives in, late 20s, early 30s, and these people need a home.
The Assembly has been told the electronic travel authorisation requirement is having a negative impact on tourism in Northern Ireland and should be scrapped. Speaking following the first EU-UK summit since Brexit, Foyle MLA Sinead McLaughlin said there is an integrated tourism offering on the island and that's been compromised by the ETA.
The electronic travel authorisation must be scrapped. It is doing real and measurable harm to tourism in Northern Ireland. This island has a seamless tourism offer. We cannot allow an artificial barrier to damage livelihoods in this key sector. People here did not vote for Brexit, and we must never stay silent about the damage it has done, not just to our economy, but to the fabric of our society.
Ireland's energy emissions are at their lowest level in over 30 years. They reduced by 1.3% last year, according to SEAI, the Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland. It means there's been an overall decrease of 11% since carbon emission targets were introduced in 2021. However, the Director of Research and Policy Insights at SEAI, Margie McCarthy, says with energy usage increasing, more needs to be done.
We are definitely doing that in the same time as we're seeing an increase in our overall energy use. So our challenge is to try and outpace the rate at which we're growing our energy by accelerating the way in which we're adopting renewable technologies like heat pumps and solar and bioenergy.
Well, the forecast mainly dry and sunny with just a northerly breeze and some cloud drifting in at times along coastal areas today. Top temperatures 15 to 18 degrees Celsius, staying dry tonight with a touch more cloud, a little cooler with overnight light northerly breezes and temperatures of 4 to 8 degrees Celsius. Tomorrow, bright and sunny again with plenty of dry weather. Cloud again coming in from the west, but it will stay mainly dry in the afternoon and evening. Top temperatures on Thursday 15 to 19 degrees Celsius, once again with a northerly breeze. Check all the latest news on our website, highlandradio.com. We're back with news headlines again at 11 o'clock. Until then, from the news team, good morning.
The obituary notices this Wednesday morning, May 21st. The death has taken place of Rena McClintock, formerly of Swilly Valley Mills, Ballindrate. Her remains will repose at Terence McClintock's funeral home, Ballybow Convoy, from 4 p.m. until 10 p.m. today, and again from 4 p.m. until 10 p.m. tomorrow. Funeral from there on Friday afternoon at 1 o'clock, going to Ballindrate Presbyterian Church for funeral service, followed by burial in the adjoining graveyard. Family flowers only please. Donations in lieu to Brentley Manor Nursing Home, care of Michelle Johnston or Terence McClintock Funeral Director. The death has taken place of Patricia Patton, nee Kyle, Greenhill, Letterkenny, reposing at her home. Requiem Mass tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock. Requiem Mass tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock in St Mary's Church, Ramelton, followed by burial in the adjoining cemetery. Mass can be viewed on churchservices.tv. Family time from 10 o'clock tonight and before the funeral tomorrow. Family flowers only please. Donations if desired to the cardiac unit, Letterkenny University Hospital, care of any family member. The death has occurred of Connie Sweeney, nee McNulty, 26 Hillhead, Castlefin, reposing at the home of her son and daughter-in-law, Anthony and Melanie Sweeney, Alt Lower Doneylip. Funeral from there tomorrow at 11:20 for Requiem Mass at 12 noon in St Mary's Church, Castlefin. Interment afterwards in St Mary's Cemetery, Castlefin. Family time please from 11 o'clock tonight and before the funeral tomorrow. The death has taken place of Seamus McIntyre, Ballyness Fulcara, formerly of Creasla. His remains will repose at his home today from 11 a.m. until Rosary at 9 o'clock with all welcome. House private to family please after the Rosary tonight and before the funeral tomorrow. The funeral mass will take place tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock in St Finian's Church, Fulcara, with interment afterwards in the adjacent cemetery. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu to the Lake House Comfort Fund, care of any family member or Kieran Rorty Funeral Director. The funeral mass can be viewed live on Kieran Rorty Funeral Director's Facebook page and on the parish webcam. The death has taken place of Mary Josephine Goff nee McLaughlin, 50, Coolmore Point, Derry. Her remains will be reposing at her home today from 12 noon until 9 o'clock. Funeral from there tomorrow morning at 11:25. For 12 o'clock Requiem Mass in Our Lady of Lourdes Church, Steelstown. Interment afterwards in the city cemetery. The death has taken place of Stephen Martin, Carricknaslade, Lifford. Service at Quigley's Funeral Home, Strabane this morning at 11:30. Private cremation afterwards in Lakelands Crematorium. For family information and more details regarding wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
These days, we're always being told to be more spontaneous and less predictable. At Uno Energy, predictability is what you want. Our app keeps you one step ahead with daily updates and monthly bill predictions, so you can focus on saving.
And right now, we predict savings up to €1,012 on our newest dual fuel plan. With Uno Energy, you just know. Uno Energy discount variable electricity rate EAB €1,256 and discount variable gas rate €1,135. For T's and C's rates and savings calculations, see unoenergy.ie. Supplies pricing may change.
Interesting story in the news. Lots of interesting stories, of course, but it's the comments from, and I'm really interested in what you all think, especially given the fact that we have one of the greatest mixes of residential property and holiday homes in the country. So Tom Gilligan, he's Director of Services for Housing and Roads in Mayo County Council. He has urged people to boycott the owners of holiday homes this summer. He sent an email to members of the local authority committee last week urging the community to boycott literally holiday home owners. And what do you think about that? He says that they should be sort of like not protested against, but that they should be called out by the local community. So what do you think? What do you think about that? He says they're bad neighbours. And Tom Gilligan claims such properties are a luxury we can't afford amidst the housing crisis. So, like, this is an official in a local authority who is effectively turning, or seeking to turn, it seems, and the words, whether he intends it or not, to turn people against, effectively their neighbours, albeit them part-time neighbours. Like, that's, what do you think of that? I'm trying to not sort of express too much of my own opinion, but it's only last week we had Micheál Martin that was calling out local authorities for rattling the begging bowl too much to provide housing with central government funding. He believes they should be doing more on the ground. They should be spending the resources to turn vacant properties around very, very quickly. Like, your copybook would have to be pretty clean, I think, in a position as a senior county council manager to suggest that the general public should boycott the owners of holiday homes. So are we supposed to, if they come into the local bar or local shop, turn our backs to them, walk away? Like, what exactly is he suggesting? He believes that this is one of the ways we could fix the housing crisis. Let me know what you think. 086 60 25,000. Do you agree with him? Or do you think this is a bit of an overreach? I'll try and get the full quotes from him, but some of the remarks. Now, the defence is being used that boycott is a Mayo word and maybe has some sort of a different kind of a context. I don't know. But anyway, he seems to be of the view that we should be boycotting our people coming in here. I'll just read some more of what he said. Mr. Gilligan proposed the immediate boycott of holiday home owners in Mayo as a potential remedy for bringing holiday homes back into use for long-term sustainable housing. Referencing the historic significance of Mayo through the Land League and name-checking Michael Davitt, Captain Boycott, Charles Stewart Parnell and Mahatma Gandhi, Mr. Gilligan called for grassroots action. While policy tools such as taxation and CPOs are progressing, grassroots action in the form of a targeted boycott is also being proposed as a way to express community dissatisfaction and create pressure for change, he said. Under the headline, application of the boycott, he said it would be a peaceful, non-violent civil action. He said a 4-point plan would involve local community in which holiday home owners live part-time, avoiding patronage of businesses or services owned by absentee landlords, refusing engagement with holiday home owners, public campaigns, protests and community meetings encouraging social solidarity, social pressure, including open letters and local resolutions demanding accountability for property investors. So effectively, really, looking to round up locals to turn on holiday makers. What do you think about that? Do you think that he's off the mark, or maybe you think he's spot on? I'm not making up that language. That's quite literally the language he used himself. I'm quoting there from the email. He wants the locals to turn against the holiday home owners. Okay, we're going to be talking about the future of our post offices right now, actually. Finola McBride, General Treasurer for the Irish Postmasters Union. I won't keep you long, so we'll get straight to the point, Finola. You are saying the post office the network needs €15 million per year over 5 years. And is this to maintain services or to improve and grow?
Good morning, Greg. Thank you for having me. The question you're asking me, yes, we're looking for 15 million over a 5-year period, and that's basically to stabilise the existing post office network that we have already. As you know, I'm in Castlefin, and we provide an essential service to our local communities. And as most people would know, we just don't do more than just selling stamps, okay? We provide service to people, that everyday service that is something that you wouldn't get in most places in this day and age. We have face-to-face communication with our customers. We help them, we fill out forms, and this work basically goes unpaid. Now, a few years ago, 3 years ago, the government allocated 30 million to the post office network, which would have been 10 million over a 3-year period. Now, Greg, that is running out now in December. And what we're looking for now is the government to invest 15 million, not to expand the business, but about safeguarding our post offices. We want to prevent closures, and we want to have certainty for our future. So that's why we're looking for this investment for the next 5 years.
Yeah, and there was a battle, really, I suppose, to make the argument of what post offices can provide and what they can mean to local communities going back over the years, Finola. This is really about the government recognising the role of the post office network. Do you think they do? Because unless they do, these calls are going to fall on deaf ears.
No, as they do recognise the work that we've been doing, and we have been told that they will invest money, but at this minute we don't know what they're going to give us. So no, they know the work that we do. We have their support. I'm in Buswell's Hotel now today, and at 10:30 we're launching our Grant Thornton report to the ministers and TDs to let them know why we need the 15 million. And to get that starting in 2026 for the next 5 years.
What will you be looking from them? Obviously, you want them to hear you, right? But will you be looking for some commitments to sort of say, right, okay, we take on board what you're saying, we're going to roll in behind you on this one?
Yeah, well, we would like them. We've asked them for more work. We're available for more work. Like, for example, we as postmasters would be able to become peace commissioners. Now, that would take off the work off the guards, for example. And we could do that because we know everybody. So that'd be one role we could do for the government. We would like to be able to do public services cards, where rather than people having to travel to their nearest office, that they could come into the post office, we know them, and be able to do the cards. That would save time and money. There's other things that we could do, like we've always wanted the motor tax. We still lobby for that. We would love to have that. It's not a day goes by that I'm not asked for the motor tax. We would like to do download forms, because we get a lot of forms from the government every year. Sometimes then that they go out of date and have to be recycled. We could save the government money there by just downloading the form and printing them off for the customer as we go along. So there is things out there that we want to do, even to do electoral for customers as well, registering people. And it's just what we've asked the government. They're looking into their areas to see what they can give us. So,
you're offering services in return for further investment to, I suppose, provide better services to the public, but make the network more viable. And you talk about like something simple as motor tax. You know yourself, people are not happy that now there are, you know, limited days where you can go in person and do that type of business. And you're saying the network's there. Why not avail of it?
Absolutely. We are a business, and we can't, as I don't know if people realise, but you know, we can't increase any prices on any of the products that we sell because it's set by An Post. So you know, we provide the service like banking. We do all AAB banking, Bank of Ireland. We do the An Post banking, and we provide that service, and that prevents people having to travel. For me, people have to travel to Ballybofey and the extended area of Castlefin. That's like a 34-kilometre round trip. So it's vital that we don't close, that we're able to provide these services for customers, because not everybody's digitalised, you know, into computers or into.
But it's not always age related either. Some people prefer to be able to deal that way. You know, often I think you and I know, but often people think that it's a generational thing. But there's people throughout all generations. Listen, you've that thing at 10:30. I'm not going to hold you up, Finola. You made the points very well. Thank you very much indeed. Take care. That's General Treasurer for the Irish Postmasters Union and Donegal Postmaster, Castlefin Postmaster, Finola McBride there. And that launch is taking place down in the Boswell in the next little while. A caller says, yes, Greg, tuned into that freak fest called Eurovision on Saturday night for my last time ever. The only way Ireland will win again is to enter a troupe of dancing nuns, transgender nuns, they say, singing a trash metal version of Ave Maria, Bring Back Dana and Johnny Logan. Presumably not as transgender nuns. I'm very angry and even confused, says another, that Israel almost again won a contest they should have been totally excluded from. Israel has committed horrific war crimes and have no intention of stopping until the Palestinian people are wiped out. They should be banned from participating in any civilized activity, while the double standards, Russia were banned immediately. Why not Israel? Are Palestinian lives less valuable than Ukrainian ones? Why does the entire world seem to be afraid of Israel? Big, big question. And don't even speculate about that, because you might be called anti-Semitic or something along those lines. Unfortunately, they have, not unfortunately, that is the defence, that it's quite difficult to even talk about things, because if you say that anything that's sort of anti, you could be called out on that. Okay, we're going to be speaking to former consultant orthopaedic surgeon Dr. Peter O'Rourke after we get the bingo numbers.
It's time for Vision Ireland Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Wednesday, the 21st of May. You're playing on the blue sheet for the daily prize of €1,600. The reference number is S3. It's game number 21. The numbers are 13, 44, 60, 56, 77, 9, 34, 67, 5, and finally 89. Phone your claim to 9104833 before midnight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your Vision Ireland bingo information at highlandradio.com.
At Restex Beds, we are celebrating 50 incredible years in business. And we are introducing our brand new Glenveigh mattress, comfort that's as legendary as our half-century legacy. Experience 50 years of bedding excellence at Restex Beds, Mountaintop Letterkenny. Restex Beds, leave the rest to us.
This year, every organisation with over 50 employees must highlight the difference in pay between men and women, the gender pay gap. Because if we highlight it, we can all work to close it. So whether you work in boardrooms, showrooms, front rooms, stock rooms, or not in rooms at all, if you have 50 or more staff, you must report it by November 30th. Let's all highlight the difference to make a difference. Visit gov.ie/gender pay gap to learn more.
Discover delicious food at the Donegal Festival of Food. 2 incredible days celebrating artisan produce, crafts and creativity at the stunning Oakfield Park in Raphoe. Experience live cookery demos with top celebrity chefs including Marco Pierre White, Rachel Allen and Paula McIntyre, plus outstanding local talent. Savour tempting bites from regional producers. Enjoy craft brews, browse unique handmade gifts and soak up live entertainment and fun for for all ages. It's all happening Saturday the 24th and Sunday the 25th of May. Book now at oakvillepark.com. You don't want to miss it.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Simplify your debts with a debt consolidation loan from Letterkenny Credit Union. Call us on 074 910 2126 or apply online via our app or in office today.
Okay, we're very lucky to be able to tap into the experience and opinions of retired consultant orthopaedic surgeon Dr. Peter O'Rourke. Peter, thanks for your time. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Greg.
We were listening earlier on about the ongoing calls for additional haematology services in Letterkenny. People waiting crazy amounts of time and being asked every 4 months if they still need to be seen. What's your take on the situation?
Well, I think we've heard both haematology and oncology in the news locally quite a lot recently, especially with the Minister's recent visit. The problem with these services, historically, I was in the hospital in part of the medical management when they brought on oncology services before we even had a haematologist. And these services were supposedly brought on as outpatient services, would have no impact on beds and no impact on the hospital. It would be wonderful for all the people of Donegal to have access to these services, which is true, but they were never funded, they still aren't funded, and they far exceed the resources allocated to them. If you take oncology, I think they have a bed unit. I'm not sure exactly how many but it's sort of 15 to 18 beds. But they usually have, certainly when I was working there, 30 patients plus in the beds. Haematology would also have other patients in the beds. So these services were never properly resourced. So you bring on extra haematologists, extra oncologists, and the knock-on effect is more patients being brought into hospital, and the only thing that gives is services that previously with the routine service in the hospital get deferred, cancelled or outsourced.
Fundamentally, though, this is a hospital that the workload, the footfall, the amount of people through it, it needs to be completely reclassified, does it not, in terms of resources and funding, etc., rather than these occasional battles for a particular consultant in a particular field without really taking the bigger picture into consideration.
Totally. I mean, the hospital needs to be redeveloped. It's not, and each individual group that fights to get what they want is to the detriment of other services. I mean, we had the scandal in the gynecology service, as a result of which massive resources were put into reducing their waiting lists. But again, that was to the detriment of other surgical services. So it's all well and good saying we're going to do this, we're going to improve waiting times, but you should only be doing it with by putting resources in to allow you to do it without robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Why then is it so difficult to get proper funding for Letterkenny University Hospital, where it's running a deficit many years, let alone sort of, breaking even and looking for more resources, for more services? Why is it so, in your view, traditionally underfunded, and in many ways people feel it's going backwards?
Well, it isn't to be considered going backwards. It is going backwards in a rate of knots. I mean, historically, Letterkenny has always had a larger catchment area than Sligo, but we were all the poor relations to Sligo. Sligo were designated a regional hospital with a catchment area of something like 85,000 when Letterkenny had 120,000. They were always funded. They got more for their 80,000 than we got for our 120,000. They got appointments with consultants who were actually meant to have attachments to Letterkenny. They never set foot in the place. Letterkenny has never had the political will that people like the McSharrys pushed an agenda forward in Sligo. Letterkenny has always been left behind, and the Letterkenny way was to do things quietly, not jump up and down, and basically that has got us to where we are now. I mean, if you think in terms of when I was appointed, there was 4 operating theatres. There was 3 general surgeons, 1 orthopaedic surgeon before I got there. And now we have, I think, 5 general surgeons, although not, I think, all in post at the moment, 4 orthopaedic surgeons, and we have the same number of theatres. I mean, trying to recruit replacements for surgeons is going to be incredibly difficult, because the one thing a surgeon wants to do, especially a newly minted one, they want to operate. They want to do as much surgery as they possibly can. But why would anybody come to a place like Letterkenny where you might get to operate every second week if you're lucky?
Yeah.
And so So we've got medical beds, we have a medical rehabilitation unit, we have a massive temporary structure for endoscopy. So vast numbers of people have been having their colonoscopies and gastroscopies, but nobody's getting surgery. And the busiest surgical department in the hospital is the NTPF office, which outsources patients to Ballykelly and places like that. And ironically, we now have another private medical unit setting up in Letterkenny, so they'll help people outsource to private hospitals in Northern Ireland. So less will be done in the hospital, more money will be taken out of the health service, and patients will be travelling across the border for procedures that could be done in
your
Letterkenny.
view, Peter, someone needs to look at the workload and also the demographic. We have an older population, and really the money's kind of supposed to follow the patient, but I don't think that's really happening in Letterkenny at all. We've got a very skewed population here in terms of those that attend that hospital. So we have a hospital of that size. It's that busy offering these services. Are you familiar with who looks at that and allocates consultants, other staff and other resources? Because my understanding is it's not Cialta, it's certainly not the local hospital manager, and it's not the Minister for Health. Somewhere up the chain there's someone looking at the situation and saying, I'm not approving that a consultant, or I'm not sending trainees there. Something has happened much further up the line that's working to the detriment of Letterkenny University Hospital.
Well, it's like when the minister comes to visit. She has the answers to the questions she's to be asked, but she's briefed by various civil servants. So the minister doesn't actually hear what's said locally. The briefing comes from Cialta, briefing the Department of Health, and then or the HSE, and they tell the minister what they want her to hear. So Cialta has been controlling Letterkenny for years. Decisions aren't made in Letterkenny, they're made in Cialta down in Galway. For instance, all the clinical directorates are run out of Galway. Half the time, clinical directors don't, certainly in my experience, spend very little time ever visiting Letterkenny. Galway has no interest in what happens up in Donegal, as a result of which anything we try to do has to be rubber stamped by Galway, and it never is, or it happens so slowly that it might as well be ignored.
It's a very frustrating picture, and I'm trying to approach it from a different angle, if you know what I mean, and trying to ascertain where the blockages are. I know there is work ongoing to make the argument for an improved funding package or a model 3.5 or whatever way you want to phrase it. But I mean those wheels move slowly. Nothing you're seeing now surprises you. You've been flagging this even when you were down there as an outspoken consultant on site, Peter.
I was in my 24, 25 years as a consultant in Letterkenny, I was involved in management, I'd say, for 20 of the 24, 25 years, banging my head off a brick wall, getting absolutely nowhere. The problem is you make the hospital unattractive for certain specialties, and if they die, the hospital dies. And there's a perfect example not too far away from us in Enniskillen. Enniskillen was built as a state-of-the-art hospital. They've no, as far as I'm aware, acute services there because they couldn't get surgeons, anaesthetists and people like that to work there because it wasn't a job that was worth doing, because you couldn't treat people if you didn't have a group of colleagues that gave you access to intensive care, operating theatres and other specialties to complement your specialty. It just died a death, and Enniskillen is basically all but turned into a village hospital. And that's the way Letterkenny is going, to be quite honest. And I worry for my own health when I get to the stage where I need services that they just won't be there.
Okay. Dr. Peter O'Rourke, retired consultant orthopaedic surgeon, thank you so much for your time as always. A caller says holiday home owners pay property tax, buy local and are replacing hotels who are housing refugees in Airbnb. We need tourists, so we need holiday homes. The Mayo guys deflecting from the state failures to build houses. Last week there were calls for the elderly to move to smaller homes. This week it's holiday home owners. What next? Get rid of cows and house people in byres? It's also too, it's not. This is interfering with what people do with their own resources and their own property. I mean, if you comply to everything, all the local rules, the planning rules, absolutely everything, and you work your butt off and you manage to secure yourself a nice little holiday home on the West Coast, to sort of suggest, especially a council official, to suggest that you should be boycotted, that people should turn their backs on you for that. I mean, that's pitting. And a lot of the people in this county, for an example, might be from Northern Ireland. That's pitting Irish person against Irish person. I find it quite a remarkable intervention. But anyway, I want to question the framing that trans women would make. They call them cis women, but I mean, that's a strange terminology. But anyway, I'll use it because you're using it. I want to question the framing that trans women would make cis women and girls uncomfortable in open swimming pool changing rooms. Most of my trans friends and family would give up swimming rather than find themselves in such a situation. The issue is facilities not thinking about inclusion. Every pool goer deserves privacy when changing. Most modern pools now have individual and family-sized cubicles to facilitate this. It's just an example of some of the places that people have their concerns. I don't be in women's changing rooms, right? So I don't know their layout or what they say. I'm just talking of, I'm just reflecting what you hear some people commenting in. But I mean, it's as opposed to, it's about whether it's exploited or not by your friends. Anthony says, so that councillor doesn't see any harm in a transgender female changing in a female changing area in a swimming facility. Well, he never said that. He said that there's no evidence that there is a danger, I believe. I don't wish to misquote him. But that's he says there seems to be no evidence of that, but I also recognise that it's a complicated issue. But I mean, I suppose too, you know, like it is worth, and it's Pippa that sent that in, and Pippa, I'd love a response from you. I mean, you know, the way it is in Ireland, you know, maybe some of your trans friends are, maybe they've had gender affirming surgery, maybe they're taking hormones or what have you. In this country, that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. There are biological males who identify as female that have not done any of that, that are working in childcare settings, that are working and have access to females' facilities. Are you fully comfortable with that as well? Or what? 086 60 25,000. I'm interested in all views and certainly don't want to come anti any community. It's a very small community and I certainly don't want to be doing anything to pile any hate in that regard. But as I say, it is a conversation that's being had.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, with monster loans available up to €60,000 for all occasions. Visit letterkennycu.ie.
This month, Foy's in Ballybuffet and Letterkenny are having a massive display clearance sale. We're making room for new arrivals with incredible discounts on display furniture, including sofas, dining room furniture, bedroom furniture and more. It's your chance to grab top quality furniture at unbeatable prices. With the largest showrooms in the Northwest, Foy's is the place to shop interiors and paint. Foy's, where the best deals are waiting for you.
Running a business isn't easy, but accessing support should be. The new National Enterprise Hub is the single source for all government support for your business. With over 180 supports in one place, it's easier than ever to find grants, advice, training and more. And don't worry about not knowing what you need. Our helpful team will guide you every step of the way. Visit neh.gov.ie to learn how we can help. The National Enterprise Hub. Support starts here, an initiative of the Government of Ireland.
You catch them in the corner of your eye, refusing to blend in. An electrifying presence you can't forget. The new Cupra Performance plug-in hybrid range is designed to move you further. With up to 130 kilometres of electric autonomy, you can set your course without compromise. Search Cupra plug-in hybrid today. All-electric range based on WLTP test data. Real-world driving results may vary.
Your local dealer is DMG Motors, Clough Road, Donegal Town. Telephone 074 9721 or visit dmgmotors.ie.
New this week in Home Store and More. All Hotel Collection duvet sets are half price. But better hurry, because when all our half price Hotel Collection duvet sets are gone, they're gone. Also, all dinnerware sets and all barbecues are still all 33% off. But when all the 33% off dinnerware sets and all the 33% off barbecues are gone, they're definitely gone. Drop by your local Home Store and More. Visit us online at homestoreandmore.ie. Home Store and More. a happy home.
I'm joined on the programme now by Seamus Ryan, who's Industrial Relations Officer with Forsa. Good morning, Seamus. Thank you for your time.
Very welcome, Greg. Thanks for having me on.
Right. Now, in terms of recognition, school secretaries and caretakers, we've been calling. We had been covering this story for years. Some of them were employed in different ways compared to how they might be employed in a different school. Has that situation been resolved now that these people, for the most part, are paid, by the education department rather than individual schools?
No, this situation hasn't been resolved yet. We're at a halfway house for our caretaker colleagues and for our secretary colleagues who are a little bit further along. While they're paid by the Department of Education, caretakers still are not, and that's coming down the road in the next little while. There's some things to work out in terms of payment for use of their own equipment and their own cars to use and vans to do work. Call out allowances, things like that, for having the key to come in and turn off an alarm in the middle of the night, that kind of thing. But the big issue is that unlike the other people that work in schools with them, SNAs and teachers, principals of schools, who of course are teachers as well, these people who look like ducks, walk like ducks, quack like ducks, are in fact not ducks. They're not public sector workers, and the people they work with side by side have a range of supports and rights that they don't have, namely access to a state worker pension and things like significant sick leave, critical illness leave. And we believe that after 45 years of looking for this, it's time that these workers were accepted for what they are, public sector workers, and that they've been brought into that fold.
There might be industrial action coming down the line in relation to this. Why are they ducks for the most part, as you mentioned, but aren't receiving a public service pension? What's the argument here? And is it about it being retrospective? Is it about it going forward? What's the hold up?
Well, the argument is, this it essentially comes from a historical situation where previously, back in 78, 79, and we're going back beyond even my years now at this stage, not many years, but a few years beyond my lifetime, that there was a change to how these staff were employed, and the power was given to schools and local boards of management to put in place their own staff locally, rather than having them centrally employed, where they would have got access to the terms and conditions of employment of public sector workers. And unfortunately, over the years, there's been significant drift between what a clerical officer or a general operative working in an ETB, which are essentially doing the same work in schools, gets paid, has a pension, the terms and conditions of employment, and we want to correct that. We want to bring them back in line with the people that do the same work in the schools around every single county that they look at. And we want them to have access to those securities and the pension that comes with it.
Yeah, and there's nothing for them at all. There is a ballot ongoing. Is that through Forsa that ballot is ongoing? I think it's up till June 11th or something along those lines.
Yeah, the ballot opened yesterday for our members, about 2,500 secretaries and caretakers across the country. And that doesn't include people, of course, who work in ETBs, who are another cohort of our staff, those who have, the old scheme, which there are still a couple of hundred across the country. So there's larger membership, but these are the people that are affected. So voting opened yesterday in that ballot, and it'll continue on until the 11th. And from the 11th onwards, we'll have a result, and members and the public and indeed government will know what the result of that is. And of course, we're encouraging secretaries and caretakers to vote in their numbers for this industrial action, this strike action.
This has always been a complex one, but bear with me here. So there was a package offered to secretaries, and the majority took it, I presume, where they become department administered payroll employees effectively, which means they do get holiday pay and what have you. But they're still deemed to be employees of the individual schools, and therefore the department's arguing it is the schools then that should sort out the pension for them. So how is the government, and you're not a government spokesperson or the relevant department, paying them and affording them entitlements through their payroll system, but these people are still employees of the schools for which they work?
Well, the funny part of all this is that teachers and SNAs, whom we also represent SNAs, are also all employees of the school. And that's the same across every board of management run school in the country. And there's 3,943 schools across the country. A few hundred of those are ETB, which are taken out of this equation. But the vast majority of those are people, excuse me, where teachers and SNAs work are still employed by those schools. And the department acts as their paymaster. The people that pay their wages set their terms and conditions, write circulars that cover things like maternity leave, bereavement leave, critical illness. They do all that anyway for them. So what we're saying is that secretaries and caretakers quite soon are to move into that system. So why would it be a case that these two cohorts of employees are treated any differently to these much larger groups in the tens of thousands in terms of caretakers, SNAs and teachers, whereas we have maybe 4,000 to 5,000 secretaries and caretakers who just want that parity between themselves and the other people.
I understand where you're coming from as a union that represents all, but might this be easier to get over the line if we are talking about those currently employed as secretary and caretakers, or those that might be employed into the future? Because it's still a considerable number. To ask the state then to do this retrospectively, I don't know if a figure has been put on it, but I imagine the numbers could be quite huge. And that's notwithstanding the struggles former secretaries and caretakers might be having through the cost of living, etc. But to ask this to be retrospective, is that not going to complicate the cause? Whereas you might get it over the line if you talk about those currently employed and those to be employed into the future.
Well, it's interesting because the Department of Education has actually shown us, and so has the Department of Public Expenditure and National Development and Reform, showed us a model that allows them to do this quite easily. They have a model in place that can do it. People who were employed as 78, 79 contract employees, secretaries and caretakers at the very, very beginning didn't have access to a pension. They were offered it maybe 2 or 3 years into it, but a lot of people were young at that time. It was back in the 80s. People, we're all going to live forever when we start our jobs. We don't really think about pensions, but a lot of people refused it. But then people, obviously matured, realized that you're going to need some money for your retirement and started looking for it. So Forsa has secured a pension for these people, and it's based on taking the notional amount of money they would have gotten from their lump sum and deducting the notional amount of money that would have been paid every fortnight from your wages for a pension contribution. And that notional money has been used from accounting purposes in the Department of Education to fund these ongoing fortnightly pensions.
Okay. And I suppose
so they've shown us how they can do it.
Yeah, and all the money comes from the same.
All
the money comes from the same pot, really. So what you'd be actually seeking for, particularly if people are of pension age, is for it all comes from the same pot. The gap between the state pension and what pension they might be entitled to. It's a top up, really, effectively, because presumably this would be or maybe you're seeking it in addition to the state pension.
Well, for public sector workers, their state pension is already wrapped into
So it would be the
pension
gap
they get
between
from
the two.
the employer every fortnight when you retire. So what this is doing is looking for the amount of money that, on top of the state pension, that would be, the entitlement if they had the opportunity. And this is the important thing. They've never had the opportunity to make a pension payment.
Okay, so if you are a public service, if you're a person with an interest in this, there is a meeting on Thursday in the Mount Errigal Hotel at 7:30 p.m. where it'll be discussed in more detail. Thank you so very much indeed, Seamus Ryan, Industrial Relations Officer with Forza.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Digital loans now available. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
Sprain, minor injury, cuts, burns, just not feeling well. Skip the hospital long wait. Get seen fast at the Ophidia Minor Injuries and Illness Clinic located at Scally Place, Letterkenny. No appointment needed, just walk in. We're open Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Charges will apply. Pay and reclaim with PHI. Ophidia, expert care when you need it. Visit ophidia.ie for more.
Why leave the magic moments and great scenes you've captured sitting on your phone when you can have them printed at McGee's Chemist? Using McGee's website or one of their in-store kiosks, you just upload your photos, select the ones you want, and have them printed instantly within an hour, or use the 24-hour service. 35mm and film from disposable cameras also printed, and old photos can be digitally restored. Hold your memories in your hand with McGee's Chemist, Letterkenny.
Looking for the ultimate school tour destination? Discover the largest family entertainment complex in the Northwest, Century Complex. Dive into fun with our soft play area, conquer the indoor crazy golf, and enjoy a private cinema experience with packages available. Call 07491219976 to book your adventure today.
Celebrate summer this week at Centra with our summer sizzler offers, like selected Walker's Crisp 6-pack, $1.50 each. Selected Kellogg's Breakfast Cereal Bars 6-pack, also $1.50 each. And Coca-Cola Zero 2-litre bottles, €2 each plus deposit. Centra. Live every day.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhenney's. Get set for summer with all new arrivals dropping every week, from fashion to footwear and homeware to cosmetics. Discover more in-store or shop online at mcelhenneys.com today.
Right, okay, there'll be sunny spells and scattered showers. That's not today, is it? Oh, I don't have the weather forecast. It's going to be dry today. It's fine. Slight northerly breeze. Temperatures 16 to 19, I believe it was. Councillor Patrick McGowan is with me now. Good morning, Patrick. Thanks for your time.
Good morning, Greg. Thank you.
Right, okay, so we learned that controversial pedestrian crossing at the Bank of Ireland Ballybofey is to be moved to a safer location. There's going to be changes also to the other crossings, as far as I understand. Do you believe this is a case of common sense prevailing?
Yes, well, at the moment it's out to public consultation. We were told that about 2 years ago that this was a pilot scheme. We're told that this is stage 4. So they had a drop on there on the 14th. The consultation is still open to the 26th, I think it is. And sorry, just to check that date to be sure, I think it's still open yet. Yes, on the 26th. So there's plans in the base in Stonarler, and there's also plans in the County House in Effort, so people can call in and see them, or they can go online. But yeah,
So this has been reported as being a decision that's been made, but you're saying it's actually still in consultation mode.
Oh yeah, it's in consultation mode, but this is the proposal coming forward from the TII. They're actually responding to a lot of representations and radio shows and whatever else that the public have been airing their concerns about. So they are reacting to that.
But Patrick, in relation to this though, I mean, like from the moment, even before they were finished, there were concerns. It was obvious, anyone driving or anyone using the roads, that this was a pilot, a test of how traffic and pedestrians interact. We all knew it made no sense. If we get through this process with no one, ending up in a wheelchair or dead, we'll have only been lucky. It should never have been piloted like this, surely.
No, you're right. And at the time I looked into it, there was a pilot scheme in Limerick, I think it was, Dublin and Ballybofey. The difference where they were out on the approach road, big wide roads with grass verge and footpaths. The ones in Ballybofey and Stonarler were town centre, very busy National Primary Road. The other two locations got immediate signage, big yellow signs. We got nothing, absolutely nothing, no advance warning signs, nothing. And you're right, it's 2 years. And, it's no wonder the public sometimes query people in charge and authority, like when this kind of thing was allowed to happen. I know a lot of the local engineers and staff in the council were equally as concerned as the public, where it took too long, and even now, like it's gone on nearly 2 years. Saying that, The reports are that nobody has been knocked down or accidents at any of the crossings, while there has been several incidents where people are jaywalking. I see it every day of the week. People are still walking across this busy road on their phones, and they're not even, the crossing could be 2 or 3 meters away. And by the way, a lot of people are still not using crossings the way they should. You're supposed to stop, wait for the traffic to stop and cross. But saying that, these high visibility crossings now, they're going to be raised up.
What do you think of that? What do you think about raising tables? Because obviously,
very important. You see it in a lot of towns. I'll tell you what the problem is. If you drive yourself, Greg, down through that street many times. If you're driving from Ballybofey to Stranraer and the person standing on the left hand side, you have no problem seeing them. If you come from Stranraer to Ballybofey, you have no problem seeing them. The problem is, people coming from the opposite side of the road, there's a continuous line of traffic, and before you know, there's somebody standing at your bumper, and you wonder, then you look down and you see the line. So they're going to be raised up. The traffic's going to be kept back. You won't be able to mount them until the traffic in front of you clears off. They were bumper to bumper. I just met a man yesterday with an ice cream. He was standing in the middle of the road looking at me. Lucky I knew they were there, and they were stopped. He stopped, and then he walked on. But when they're raised up, you see them in a lot of towns. There's going to be 8 in total. Some of them are going to be marked with a Pelican flashlight. That's the one near the Bank of Ireland. The rest of them are going to be what they call high visibility, raised up in these big yellow signs. The one thing I would ask for, both within Ballybofey, Stranraer, Letterkenny, the whole county and the whole of Ireland, we need a bit of consistency. You should have the same crossings everywhere. If you don't need flashes...
As far as you're aware, there's going to be 8 of these raised platforms when travelling through Ballybofey, Stranraer.
Yeah, but and look, a lot of them are there at the moment. You think it's a lot, but like it's a long time or town, because if you take the Bank of Ireland down to Garda Station, further down, there's
it's a long run. It's a long run. There's no doubt about that.
It's a long run, and the people crossing everywhere. Look, the people are going to cross. As I say, at the moment, they'll not even cross on the ones that are there. They're just people just go from A to B straight across the road.
Yeah, but I mean, they were never given half a chance if proper pedestrian crossings or what these proposals were put in 2 years ago, people wouldn't feel they have to.
Do you think so, Greg?
I hope so.
Look, you're on the road as much as me, and look, yeah, people walk across anywhere.
I also run across roads.
There'll be no excuse when they're done right. But look, it's going to take another few months and will they be done next year? Probably the next year by the time that they get this done, because the consultation's going on until the 26th of June, and as they go to the department.
Someone sent in a press release saying the new walkway between Carragart and Downings was going to start in August. I'm not even touching that. I've done too many of those stories. I don't want to mislead people. When I see a digger in a field, I'll talk about it then. It's the same with these crossings in Ballybofey, Stranraer. What about what is this? We often talk about the 10T in the context of, Letterkenny and the relief road. But listen, Ballybofey and Stranraer must be one of the longest waiting towns for a bypass in the country. I can't imagine there's many behind Ballybofey and Stranraer in terms of when it. So what is the status? I mean, are compulsory purchases ongoing? Has the route's obviously been identified? Is it all just still coupled as part of the overall 10T and will progress as work in Letterkenny does?
Yeah. At the 10T is the 3 parts: the Letterkenny bridge, the road from Manor to Lifford, and remember, a lot of people forget about it, the bridge across to Staban. That is, nobody talks about that, but that's part of it. And the Ballybofey. At the moment, the 3 projects are one. They're now with on board Panola, the final design, the decision is going to them now. The government, the department, the TII, the National Transport Authority, all have looked at it. They're okay. This is one of the 50 in the country that's definitely going to progress. Now, will we ever get it? That's another question, but it is progressing. And we're hoping now at the end of the year that all the names of all the landowners, Letterkenny, Lifford, Ballybofey, will be published. There is a fear and a lot of concern and a lot of lobbying going on, trying to take one project and put it ahead of another. I know my Letterkenny colleagues have been at that for a long time, trying to
it'd be no harm for Letterkenny to get a fair crack of the whip for once. Everything goes to Ballybofey and Stranraer, Patrick. And to be honest with you, I think the people at Letterkenny deserve a chance.
They do. They do, surely.
All right, chat to you in a bit.
Good luck.
Bye. Councillor Patrick McGowan there. A caller says, please... I've just asked that question. It's exactly why I asked it, because I saw it there. Another caller says, I disagree with you about the crossing. Due care and attention should be given by the driver, who the onus is on to drive safely. Do you travel through Ballybofey Straw a lot? What do you think about 8 raised platforms? It should make it safer, but I mean, drivers too, obviously, going to have to go boom, boom, open over these things. If you have, I wonder if you have your suspension lowered, could that be a complication? I don't know.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering mortgages from €40,000 to €600,000 with no hidden fees or transaction charges. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102127.
Travelling to Dublin for business? Donegal Airport's same-day return makes it easy. Fly out at 7:55 a.m. and return at 6:50 p.m. Great fares and low-cost parking. Save time and book now at aerlingus.com. Terms and conditions apply.
At Hidden Hearing, we believe you should keep hearing it all. Keep dancing. Keep celebrating. Keep laughing. Keep being you. Call 1-800-370-000 or go to hiddenhearing.ie and book a free hearing test today. Hidden Hearing. Your hearing is our expertise.
Hoka, the brand that has changed running shoes at Brian McCormick Sports. The ultra-cushioned game changer, Bondi 9, will give you a soft and bouncy transition from heel to toe. Enjoy the increased stack height with a new premium midsole. Look the part, play the part. In-store and online. Click on bmcsports.ie.
Ireland's move to a cleaner energy future is happening right beneath your feet. With a gas network that's carrying more renewable gas, that will help your business become more sustainable in a way that works for you. Gas Networks Ireland, moving Ireland's energy.
Summer is here and so is the hottest sale of the year at Easy Living Furniture. Absolutely everything reduced across sofa, dining, bedroom, mattress and accessories. The spectacular summer sale is now on at Easy Living Furniture, Crescent Link Retail Park, Derry.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, Easy Living has it all. Easy Living Furniture, luxury furnishings, affordable luxury.
Save 20% of all plants, ceramic pots and True Temper garden tools this Friday 23rd and Saturday 24th of May at Homeland Letterkenny. Join us in store for advice and demos. Meet our experienced Homeland Garden Centre team with an in-store raffle and more. Visit homeland.ie for more information.
With all the stories that matter across the Northwest, it's Greg Hughes on the 9 to Noon Show on Highland Radio.
And it's exactly 11 o'clock. Let's get a news update, and it's over to Donald Kavanagh.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning. A member of the Regional Health Forum West says the latest figures he's been given show the need for a review of haematology services at Letterkenny University Hospital, along with the immediate appointment of at least one more haematologist. Councillor Declan Meehan sought details of the wait times at various hospitals across the region. On this morning's 9 till noon show, he told Greg the findings show far longer wait times in Letterkenny than in Mayo, Sligo or Galway. You can hear part of that discussion on our website, highlandradio.com. The Dáil's been told the pay and number strategy is preventing the recruitment of home care workers in Donegal, and that in turn is putting a serious strain on Letterkenny University Hospital. The issue was raised by Deputy Padraig McLaughlin during a discussion on an Independent Ireland motion calling for a fairer funding model for home care and nursing homes. Deputy McLaughlin said there is a tradition of care in Donegal of which people are very proud, and if the government puts that at risk, it'll have a fight on its hands. A senior local authority official is urging people to boycott the owners of holiday homes this summer. Tom Gilligan, the Director of Services for Housing and Roads at Mayo County Council, says properties are left empty for large parts of the year and should instead be brought into use to solve the housing crisis. The boycott would involve avoiding patronage of businesses owned by absentee landlords, refusing to engage with holiday home owners, and posters and community meetings encouraging solidarity. An extra 2,000 people are needed to donate blood urgently. The Irish Blood Transfusion Service says there is only 3 days' supply left of certain blood group types, including O negative and B negative. There are clinics today and tomorrow at the Radisson Blue Hotel in Letterkenny. Full details on highlandradio.com. And disability rights campaigner Cara Dormady has held a 1-hour meeting with the Taoiseach at government buildings. The 14-year-old slept outside Leinster House last night as part of a 50-hour protest against the long wait times for special needs assessments. Cara said Micheál Martin still won't declare the issue a national emergency, so she will continue her sleep out tonight. And we're back with news headlines again at 12 noon.
Thanks very much, Donald.
Stopped at the side of a road. Muffled footsteps. I look over to my wing mirror. Flashing lights. A guard walking up to me. I roll down the window.
And we test for multiple drugs.
I hear my future falling to pieces.
And it stays in your system longer than you think.
And I'm disqualifying you from driving for 4 years.
And Mom said you won't be picking me up from school anymore.
And I know I could have avoided this. Never use drugs and drive. A message from the Road Safety Authority and An Garda Síochána. Visit rsa.ie.
A caller says, saying to raise crossings is all well and good, but it's no good when you're in the back of an ambulance. You'd want to be well strapped in. I don't think an ambulance ever really could rally through there, even in an emergency, in that such a built-up area. I take your point, though. I wouldn't like to be that person, not contradicting you. There is a law in Australia that if you don't use the crossing to cross the road in a court, there's a €300 fine for risking an accident. Maybe we need that here. That is jaywalking. They frown on it in the States as well. It's time to take the barriers off Logues Bridge and get the bypass that's been promised to us. There are lots of trucks and lorries passing through Ballybofey. The pollution must be off the charts. But there's not just concerns in terms of crossing the roads in Ballybofey, Stranora and Letterkenny, etc. Buncrana also has issues, according to Margaret. Hiya, Margaret. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Greg. How are you?
I'm doing good. You don't have a very positive experience of crossing the road in Buncrana. What's the situation?
No, very fortunate they're not down Kilt.
Yeah.
Because they'll go flying in and out the road, and I don't know what you would need to do to stop them. Because there are no forewarnings. There are a warning just beside it. Long before it. And long before stoplights too, because the traffic lights at Super Valley, they fly through them too. I really don't know what we would need to do to get through their heads. They're supposed to stop.
So you have, in a couple of them that you're talking of, they're black and white zebra crossings and they have the lights, but you still feel, well, in fact, it's not feelings. You've been nearly knocked down 10 times, you told us.
Yeah. And they're a little blind girl with a dog. And, you know, my heart's in my mouth. Because, like, if they don't see me crossing, how are they going to see a blind girl with a dog?
Yeah. Would you like to see ramps or something to try and slow the traffic down, Margaret?
Well, they'll have to do something because they come in and out that Cockhill Road, like lamplighters.
Like what?
Lamplighters.
Right, you're going to have to explain
never
that.
heard that.
No, I want you to explain that to me.
Like a speed car.
All right, okay.
Race car.
Aha, okay, I get you. All right, okay. Well, listen, your point still stands. You've got that lived experience of feeling like your life is in your hands. We can't rely on luck, Margaret. You know, to have 10 close shaves, it's just not good enough. And I appreciate you helping us highlight it.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too, Margaret. Thank you very much for your time. So let's move on to Wellness Wednesday. And we are joined on the programme by Dr. Ciara Steele and also Sinead O'Brien, both Clean Air Advocacy Ireland representatives. A very good morning to both of you. Thank you so much for your time.
Greg. Morning, Greg. Hi.
Good to have you with us. Okay, right. Now, Dr. Steele, I'll start with you. We have data, don't we, that shows the impact non-clean air is having on particularly our young people. And we've touched on this I think it was in a different couple of contexts in the past. So it's good to get sort of a straight up convo on this specifically. Yeah. So what's your observations, or what are the observations, and what's your concerns?
So the reason we want to focus on clean air in education is, first of all, the physiological makeup of children. Their lungs are smaller, their respiratory rates are higher, they are more exposed to indoor air quality and pollutants than adults are, for example. They're more vulnerable. But what we wanted to focus on was the focus on the Minister for Health on absenteeism from schools in the education sector. So what we want to call on the Minister to do is to actually focus, as well as the unexplained absence, to actually focus on the illness absence that has hugely increased over the last 4 to 5 years, but that we can actually do something about that, because there's emerging evidence now from a lot of studies in Bradford, the Class Act study, and California studies which show that increasing ventilation by 4 litres per second per person actually reduces illness absence by each increment of 3.4%. So we're not actually utilising the tools of ventilation and filtration adequately within our education system to address the 128% increase in explained illness absence over that period of time. Like, it's a massive increase, and that also needs focus, is what we're saying.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. I mean, unless the schools are more crowded, is it new schools that are contributing to it, or what might drive such a dramatic increase?
Well, I suppose it coincides with the start of the pandemic, but the pandemic has increased a focus on indoor air quality in schools in general terms. There's other respiratory viruses that are focusing on at the moment. Measles is airborne, for example. RSV, notifications to the HPSC of strep A, pertussis, RSV, influenza have all increased over that time frame as well. But we do know that children spend about 90% of their time indoors. So their indoor air exposure to pollutants indoors is really, really high. But also over that time, the focus on PM 2.5 and other pollutants like VOCs, xylene, for example, pollutants from paint, they're all emerging as really important air pollutants that affect children in school. For example, Ireland has one of the highest instances of childhood asthma in Europe and in the world. And we know that increased incidence of infective respiratory disease can not only trigger asthma, but also cause it. So these are all compounding impacts of indoor air quality on children in our education system that need focus.
Sinead, we have the solutions, don't we? I mean, we're not starting from square one here. We know what would work.
Yes, and I think just to go back to the report that was published by TUSLA, I'd just like to highlight that's 2022 to 23 data, showing a 60% absence rate among students in primary and secondary school, which is very high. And I just like to highlight that the government's response to that is to sort of focus on attendance and kind of pressurize parents to sending their children into school.
Well, I was going to get to that actually, because there is a presumption that this is about refusers or no showers or bad parenting.
Yeah, and I think that we really need to focus on the 60% that we know that 60% of children aren't attending school due to illness. Like that is the known. I suppose the other 40% is less known, but may very well be related to that 60% who are, absent due to illness.
And most parents listening too, it's not a choice you make for the crack, because in many cases it could interrupt your work. You might have child care options. You happen to call on a relation. You don't willfully keep kids back from school. There's generally, there's obviously exceptions, but there's nearly always a reason, and it's complicated to plan for it.
Yeah, and I would just like to emphasize again, I don't think parents should be penalized for doing the right thing and keeping their children home when they're ill for their own children's sake, but also so as not to spread pathogens in the classroom, making other children sick. And so that's just, something that I'd like to just point out. But just to answer your question again.
The question was really about we have the solutions to this, or at least we have the stuff that would improve the air quality in schools.
Yeah, so I suppose Ciara already alluded to it, ventilation, like just simply opening windows would make a huge difference. But also introducing the HEPA filters, which I know many classrooms had introduced in the early days of the pandemic. But I think there's been a general reluctance to implement them because there's a fear of costs, energy costs, but which are actually unfounded because a lot of the technology is quite energy efficient. I know that there is the HSA, the Health and Safety Authority, have a guidance and a code of practice that actually requires employers to have clean indoor air quality for their employees, of which teachers are. Now, it's I find it very sad that we're not actually looking out for the welfare of children in classrooms, because obviously we can see that being in often overcrowded classrooms with no ventilation is having this negative impact on their health when we have 60% absentee rates due to illness. So having just simply those tools employed would make a big difference. But I do also think that kind of the behavior change that would, keep people home or allow people to stay home from school when they're ill would also make a big difference in not spreading infections throughout the classroom. And I think that's something that parents should be commended for and not penalized for. Because as you say, they're not keeping their children home for the crack. It's very oftentimes inconvenient, but it is beneficial to the child and to the rest of their classmates.
Yeah, Dr. Steele too. Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
Sorry, evidence shows that there's a ninefold return on the cost of introducing HEPA filters into schools and increasing ventilation and filtration in tandem to quality air standards. So there's a ninefold return on that investment, studies have shown. Also, there's other tools that can be used to make air quality in classrooms visible that have been deployed in other countries, for example, like Latvia. Like that, there's a dashboard in Latvia from all the schools in Latvia, and it shows CO2 levels, humidity and temperature levels in every classroom in Latvia. And making that visible within the classroom environment for teachers, parents, and policymakers really incites
great knowledge to have. I think most parents would. Dr. Steele, also too, I think often we are, unless we're directly affected by this, people might think we're talking about, and we are, I suppose, we're not excluding anyone, but just the general population, and to try and limit them being off school for being sick. But there's also an awful lot of children who are immune compromised or are going through cancer treatment or whatever, that I'm sure parents listening who are parents of those children and are probably anxious with them going to school but want them to participate, right, and have as normal lives as possible. Presumably that would help to protect those students as well if the air is cleaner.
Absolutely. And I think anybody with asthma or anybody with a disability sometimes can feel very excluded from the education environment because of poor air quality or perceived risk within the classroom, which is actually a real risk. But even contracting infectious disease, one parameter in the classroom, can induce disability. I mean, the long COVID rates in children are 7.6%. That's UK data, but there's a presumption that it's similar here in Ireland as well. But somebody who's immunocompromised needs to have a safe environment in order to attain an education. But there's also other things, like there's data showing that performance is increased, cognitive tasks in maths and English are increased with reductions of PM 2.5 within the classroom. So it's not all about infection, it's about education, learning, resilience,
brain function,
inclusiveness within the classroom and education environment. So there's a lot of parameters to be addressed. But what we want, just in response to the minister's focus on unexplained absence in schools, which it's good to have data on that as well, because potentially some of that is also illness related. But we have an increase of 465,000 in post-primary schools in 2017, illness absence, to 938,000 in 2022. So that's a massive increase. Why not focus on that? I mean, there are maybe controversial spendings in the last few months, but we know that there's a ninefold return on benefit on spending on indoor air quality within the education system. Why not do that?
Sinead, someone might be listening and say, I ate my dinner out of the sink when I was young and it never did me any harm. What about that sort of notion that you need to sort of be exposed to the sniffles and the coughs and what have you? Or maybe, Dr. Steele, you want to take that one, and that, I don't mind, it's up to either of the two of you, and that this is, and this helps build up your immune system and protects you into your teenage and adult years.
No,
sorry, I'll let Ciara answer that one on the health point.
I think people have confused a hygiene hypothesis of which is also debunked on the reduction of allergy or autoimmune disease by being exposure to, infectious pathogens. That's a controversial theory. It's been largely dismissed with knowledge in the last few years. And contracting a serious illness like RSV, for example, which can not only trigger asthma but actually induce asthma in children. The idea of catching a pathogen to be healthy isn't really holding sway anymore in the scientific communities.
Okay. So, Sinead,
just to add to that
yeah,
point,
go ahead.
sorry, just a lot of harmful pathogens actually begin with cold-like symptoms, like measles. So catching a cold, it could actually lead to something much worse. And we're unfortunately living in a time of vaccine resistance and hesitancy, where many people aren't getting their childhood vaccines that would actually, reduce the spread of a lot of these pathogens. So yeah, just to add to what Ciara said there,
and Sinead, just a question for you. Obviously Dr. Steele's outlined there the financial argument. There is a return on this, so it's cost neutral. We found 9 million for the pouches, which I'm suspicious that Dr. Steele was alluding to. And also to, we've seen a spike in absenteeism, so there is an issue there that needs to be resolved. Where's the resistance coming from here? Because we're told we're awash with money. I wonder, does the Department of Health come back to you and say, well, this is our reaction to what you're proposing?
Well, I think that it's the Department of Education that is holding back. And I know for a lot of our members, when they approach their schools and their principals, and they point to the HSA guidance that shows that there is a legal obligation to improve indoor air quality, and the schools say, well, we haven't received a circular from the Department of Education. And so I think they're having gone the route of putting this little code of practice out there, but not then issuing a circular. It provides a bit of a legal buffer for the department to say, well, look, we've provided the guidance, we've provided the information, excuse me, it's up to the schools to implement it, but without having actually said anything directly to the schools, they can, the schools are sort of in the dark on this. And so there's definitely a communication issue, whether it's deliberate or not. I can't obviously say, but that seems to be where the problem is. And maybe there's just a fear that it's going to be too costly to roll out the HEPA filters, but also I suppose there's the liability aspect as well, that, well, we've allowed children to go back to schools, in a COVID world now. Like it's kind of just a standard infection that's out there, and people have been harmed. And so maybe there's a fear that there's legal liability there that they don't want to have to deal with. But you can't ignore these numbers anymore. And like, as I say, that's 2022-23 data. We haven't even seen the 2023-24 data. And that's 9 months overdue now. So I can only imagine how bad those numbers are going to become.
All right.
Yeah.
Last word to you, Dr. Steele. Ciara?
So we want to focus on improving indoor air quality in schools for educational and health purposes for our children within the education system in Ireland. And we call on Minister McEntee to introduce that really as urgently as possible.
Thank you very much for your time, both of you. I really appreciate it. Very informative, and we'll see what the listeners have to say. Take care. Thank you very much indeed, Sinead O'Brien and Dr. Ciara Steele. Thank you very much indeed as well. Okay, you are tuned to the 9 till noon show here on Highland Radio. Our next guest is Jason. Hi, Jason. How are you keeping?
How's it going?
You're a kidney dialysis patient for the past year in Letterkenny, and you're waiting on a scan. How are you feeling? What toll does being a dialysis patient for a year take on you? If you don't mind me asking, Jason.
Well, it's been a big interruption to my life because I have to go for dialysis 3 times a week for 4 hours. So I can't really travel anywhere further out of Letterkenny because I have to be back within a day or so to receive dialysis.
On top of that, too, you require a scan for a procedure. And what has happened to you in that process, Jason?
At the moment, I have a plastic tube in my chest that hangs out, which they hook up to the dialysis machine. Now, the next stage from that is to have what they call a fistula, which means they tie up two veins in your body, and in order to then do dialysis, they then use needles, and it's a better flow and it does better dialysis. But you need to have that done as a surgical procedure. Back in February, I had to go to Galway to have a scan done on my arm, so they can an ultrasound scan to make sure that the veins are good enough to go ahead. The scan could only be done on a Thursday morning. They wouldn't do it any other time. They only do it then. So I had to go down the night before, get bed and breakfast, go to the hospital, get the bus back again. Lasted about an hour, and I was told things would be talked about when I get back.
So for this brief scan, you had to because of bus times, you had to go down the night before, pay for bed and breakfast, then make your way to the hospital. Presumably, I don't know if it was in walking distance or another taxi. Then maybe collect your stuff and get back on a bus. Presumably, you had to defer dialysis as well as part of this process.
Yeah, I had to change my appointment times. I then received a letter 3 weeks later saying I was required for another appointment. It didn't exactly say what the appointment was for, and spoke to the nurses in the renal unit at Letterkenny, who I've got to say are exceptionally very good.
Yes.
They spent 2 to 3 days trying to contact Galway, actually trying to get information of what it was about. And it transpired that I had to go down for this appointment. And it was on a Thursday. Again, it would have been my dialysis day, so I had to change all my dialysis times all around. And the appointment was at 20 to 5 in the afternoon.
Oh, right, that's a problem.
So I got a bus down in the morning and had about 15 minutes to spare getting into the appointment. The appointment lasted 5 minutes, talking to a vascular doctor. And he basically just confirmed the results of what the scan was 2 weeks before. Yeah. The last bus was at 4 o'clock to Letterkenny, so I had to have another overnight stay before getting the next bus available from Galway. And I didn't get home till after 6 in the evening.
So obviously, other than the important part of dialysis, and you talked of the pleasure the staff are to work with in relation to that, as a dialysis patient, is that it? Is that the only real service that's provided locally? Because it sounds like you're having to go up and down for Galway for everything else.
Yeah, and it's the same for the rest of the dialysis patients in there. And for them, for a lot of them, would be even a lot less hassle. Some would be in wheelchairs and all sorts. And you're just not catered for at all. And the equipment used for the scans and all that, they have in Letterkenny. So some of the stuff could easily have been done in Letterkenny.
Yeah. You would struggle to make sense of it all, Jason, because I mean, obviously you're a vulnerable patient as well. I hope you don't mind me saying so, but I presume, are you waiting on a transplant?
I haven't had any information about that. In order to go onto the list, you need to fulfill certain criteria.
Okay. You're just not there
which
yet.
you need to fulfill. No.
Right, but still, I presume that you're medically vulnerable, and going up and down on buses and the travel and everything else is something you could certainly do without. All right, what can we say? It's just another example of a geographical disadvantage. I hope everything goes well for you, Jason, going forward. I do appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks for sharing that with us. Okay, let's take a break.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, with monster loans available up to €60,000 for all occasions. Visit letterkennycu.ie.
Loganair says, let the wee ones fly. Kids aged 11 and under go fare free this summer. Just pay the taxes. Book by the 25th of May for travel from the 1st of June 2025. Find deals at loganair.co.uk. T's and C's apply, subject to availability. Children must travel with a full fare-paying accompanying adult.
That's the Clear Mobile Parrot. He knows a good thing when he hears it, because it's only
$12.99.
Yes, only $12.99 for unlimited 5G data and calls. Yes, there are texts, and that's why he's our top salesperson at Parrot.
$12.99.
Clear Mobile. Keep it clear. Powered by Vodafone.
$12.99.
Activation fee €12.99. 19 gigabytes UK and EU roaming data. For terms, see clearmobile.ie/terms.
This Friday is Guide Dog Day. At Irish Guide Dogs for the Blind, we need your support to change more lives. Visit guidedogs.ie to donate, join a Take the Lead walk, or be in with a chance to have dinner with Roy Keane. Guide Dog Day, sponsored by Park to Travel.
Pick up fresh at Doherty Super Value, Carndonagh. Signature taste vine ripened tomatoes just €1.49. And broccoli crown 350 gram, only 79 cent. Quality produce at unbeatable prices. Shop local and save on fresh every day with Doherty Super Value, Carndonagh.
Want a new Kia? Call to Heron Auto Donegal to arrange your test drive on our 252 Kia range, where quality customer care comes first. We have 0% finance available on all EV models. Visit Heron Auto on the Killybegs Road to test drive and order your 252 Kia and receive a €500 Super Value gift card. Drive with confidence. Drive with Heron Auto.
Highland Radio Time Checks brought to you by EirGrid, the operator and developer of Ireland's electricity grid. EirGrid, powering up communities, powering up Ireland. The time is?
It is 11:28. So we heard from a senior county council manager. He called for a community-led boycott of holiday home owners in order to bring high numbers of vacant properties back into use and combat the housing crisis. He suggested avoiding patronage of businesses or services owned by absentee landlords, refusing engagement with holiday home owners, fellow countrymen in many cases, public campaigns, posters and community meetings encouraging solidarity, presumably against the holiday home owners. Our local councillor, councillor local to Donegal, Councillor Micheál Colin McGill-Nasbeg, he's an independent. And did you happen to have a conversation with Tom Gilligan today, Micheál?
Yes, Greg, yeah, I had a conversation with Tom earlier on, just in relation to this, where we were both discussing, obviously, the question that we're on here to discuss, because about a year or 2 years ago I had suggested or proposed at a council meeting that the holiday homes that are lying vacant, and there's quite a lot of them, and that are hardly ever used, and some of them are only used maybe 2-3 times a year, and some of them could be a couple of years before they're used, that we do a compulsory order on them and take them back into full use.
Can I just put something to you on that question? Sorry, if I work my butt off in Derry or Cork or wherever it is, like really work my butt off, I don't trust the banks, right? I don't trust pensions either. I don't want the banks gambling with my money. And I decide that I'm going to invest my hard-earned cash into a property in West Donegal or in Bundoran, and holiday in it, and maybe move to it or sell it so I can be self-sufficient in my retirement. Why should a county councillor be suggesting that I should be forced to sell that to the state? Is that really what you're proposing? That you would compel people to sell their investment to the state? Is that not like something you'd expect Putin to do?
Well, look, I think if you're putting it in the manner that you're putting it, I think it's a far more complex question than just that blunt. But in terms of how our community is organised, and our community is managed and organised in the best interest of the capitalist classes, hence the management of it through the Dublin government, where they have chosen not to build adequate housing for our community, which then leads to our children, middle-aged people, being forced to the four corners of the earth, another whip on their back to immigrate, to find a home where they can rent or buy and to better their lives. So we need to look at how buying investment, because you are cash rich, into a community that is cash and generally poor and socially and economically deprived, and how that impacts on us, in terms of economically, socially, culturally, environmentally, and it does have a massive impact on us. And all we need to do is take lessons from other countries and other areas around Europe will say Cromwell, or if you look at the Basque Country or Catalonia, or we could look a lot closer and look at areas like Dunfanaghy, where people there are forced out of their own community because well-to-do people, like you said, who don't trust banks and who does trust banks,
it's not necessarily
are being forced out of the area.
These are hard-working people.
Yeah, but so are the people who have no homes or hard-working people.
Okay, so who are you blaming?
So are the people who can't afford can't afford their rent.
So are you blaming
hard-working people?
You're looking to punish people, our neighbours, our friends. You're looking to punish them because of the failures of the government. You've said that yourself. You said the government has failed to deliver affordable housing, and one of your solutions is to actually punish. I mean, you throw words out, colonialism and capitalism, and often, and I'm not pulling you up.
Don't forget the old imperialism
and imperialism and all that kind of stuff, right? And yet here you are blaming the government for a problem and actually looking to take assets off the people to fix that problem. I actually can't believe my ears.
No, well, I don't know why you can't, because as a socialist Republican, I've been talking to you about this going back many, many years, so I don't know why you can't believe your ears. Look, I'm talking about how we organise our communities and our societies, where the very, very wealthy in our society do not dictate how our communities are organised. That is organised, working class communities are organised in the best interest of working class communities.
Maybe I think your house is too big. But listen, Micheál, maybe I think your house is too big. Maybe I think your house is too big.
And it probably is.
Well, listen, I don't know your house. I'm not having to go. I literally don't know what house you live in. But why don't I take your house, right, and organise the community, take your house, move you somewhere else, and put someone in your house? Would you be all right with that?
You're bringing it right down to the individual here.
No,
and I think what Tom is talking about... No, but you are bringing it down to the individual, and I have no problem
All of these people are individuals.
Discussion.
All of these people are individuals, Micheál.
No, but
it's not a gang of holidaymakers or tourists.
No, hold on here. No, they're not all individuals, right? There are people and companies coming into our community who are buying up property. We see it, vulture funds right across the whole country, right? That are buying up sways of apartments, right, because they have the cash. And then there's local communities in Ballyclare, on the towns, or anywhere, and especially for us on the western coast, for very, very wealthy people, because it is a luxury to have a second home, right? And I am not making the comparison for Mary that her Uncle Joe, who unfortunately passed away, had left her a home, or Grania, or Paddy, who lives in Scotland because he had to emigrate and he wants to make sure that he has a home next door to his aging parents, and he wants his nephews and nieces to know his own family. There's a big difference. There's a big difference in where you have somebody from Ballyclare, Cork or Belfast or wherever they're from who are so cash rich that they think, you know what, I'm just going to start buying property in areas like West Donegal or anywhere else, because for them it is extremely cheap. For us, it's extremely beyond our ability to buy, and that increases the value of property in the area, increases the value in terms of buying homes and also renting homes. We only have to look at Airbnb.
But
and do you not believe that we should be restricting that?
You talked of Dunfanaghy, right? Okay, what would Dunfanaghy be without tourism? What would Downings be without tourism?
What would Dunfanaghy be without tourism?
Yeah.
What is Dunfanaghy without its local population?
No, Dunfanaghy would be Duncanely. It would just be another village.
I don't know how you're making that.
Because what's the industry?
Doesn't have a beach. So
what's the industry? My point is the reason there's so many hotels, so many restaurants, new bars being opened is because of people coming into the area. It's a tourism destination. That's why
people come. It is a tourist destination, but let's look at how that affects the local community. Like, Greg, I've been talking about housing as long as I've been talking about housing, as you well know, right? So if we're going to show empathy and discuss and challenge both on radio or on the streets or at public meetings or at the council level in relation to why we have mothers without homes, fathers without homes, people sleeping in cars, because that's the reality that I see in most days in West Donegal and in other places. Yeah, we need to look at the root cause of this here. Okay. And I think for the reason why I came on today was to discuss what Tom Gilligan had discussed earlier on at an SPC.
Okay, but let me ask you this, right? So let's say, for instance, I'm 25, 23. Okay, I've done 6 or 7 years in college, busted my balls to get a qualification. I choose not to drink. I choose not to smoke. I drive a modest.
Why would you compare it to driving?
No, listen. Wait, wait till I'm finished. I don't drink.
Sorry, excuse me.
I don't
Apologies.
smoke. I drive a modest vehicle. I don't go out much. I do all of this because I want to try and gather money up. I'm very frugal and I save my money. And then I get to 40, 45, right? And I've managed to accumulate 200 grand. Like, you see me as the enemy. You see me as a different class of person that shouldn't be able to buy a property in a certain place.
You're using polarising language, though.
No. You're not going to.
Using polarising
because
language.
you talked about vulture funds and all that kind. That's not what Tom Gilligan's talking about.
Again,
right? That's not what he's talking about.
And you're bringing it down to individualising, and that means then it's pulling at heartstrings off human beings.
Yes, of course. And you're trying to avoid pulling at the heartstrings by blaming the government and foreign vulture funds when you know.
I'm trying to have a wider discussion, Greg.
But they're
as
not
you know,
the
I'm trying to have a wider discussion.
And I'm loving the conversation. I'm loving the conversation. But my point is if
you
I
have
am
to
that
do your
22, of course I have to do my job. If I do that 23, if I live my life from 23, 24 frugally, and I manage to accumulate that money, what am I supposed to do with it? I don't want to give it to the banks because they're rip-off merchants. I don't want my pension to be gambled with. I might invest in a little bit of property. And now I've got Tom down in Mayo saying I should be protested against.
Look, how do you feel morally? Because that's what you're talking about as morals, and you're bringing it down to the heartstrings of individualism, right? Because that's what you brought the conversation to, right?
Yeah.
And that's fine, and that's a challenge, right? But how do you then, with your non-smoking and non-drinking and hard-working, and you come down to West Mayo... Hold on, somebody's ringing me.
That's all right. Tom.
Somebody's ringing me to tell me I'm on radio. Come here, and you're sitting down, and Mary's in a caravan that she isn't allowed to be in because of the planning laws and the county development plans.
Yeah.
And you're sitting in your fine house because you're very frugal with your money.
Mm-hmm.
But yet Mary works 3 jobs a week during the week and then does part-time bar work at the weekend just to put food on the table for her 3-4 children.
And what does Mary think?
Now, tell me where society
Okay, will you tell me this
then?
So Mary's sitting in her caravan, right? And there is there's another family of people that are here legitimately fleeing a war that are getting that are getting €800 in cash to rent a house next to them.
Jesus.
Why you don't like that, do you?
No, I am, and I will come on tomorrow morning and have that conversation with you.
My point
but that's not what the conversation's about. The conversation's
about a fair society.
The conversation is about holiday homes. And I have no problem whatsoever to have that conversation with you. I'll come on if you give me a time now. I will discuss that with you tomorrow. I'll come even into the studio and sit down and have that conversation. But
don't be so
back
defensive.
to go back.
It's just a conversation.
No, I'm not. But you've shifted it completely away from why I was asked to come on here. You know. No, absolutely it is about fairness. So,
how did
in the
Caroline
interest
know
of
you were
fairness,
meeting
let's
Tom
get
Gilligan?
focused. Because I spoke to him because I had it on my Facebook. And plus, it's Caroline Orr. She knows everything.
Okay, I was
you know?
going to say she knows everything. All right, listen, come here. I have nothing against any group of individuals, but it's just this overreach of the state into people's own pockets, and then to guilt them to not be able to enjoy their hard-earned money because of Mary. You know, it's not fair because it's the state that should look after Mary, not the person who's worked hard all their life.
But the vast majority of people, and when you're talking about hard working, right? I am talking about hard working. I'm talking about Mary who gets up in the morning, right, and goes and cleans these holiday homes.
Yes.
And then when she's finished, she probably goes to cleans the school. And when rich people tells us to constantly work hard, that we will reap the rewards for it. The reality of it is we don't. Working class people don't. We barely be able to. I spoke to a woman today who has to leave her home with an X amount of children and a partner, and now the rent has absolutely gone past double, and she just can't afford it.
Okay.
Council won't allow her to put a caravan on a piece of land that she wants.
I get you. Okay.
Well, what's driving the rent up is rent up is Airbnb, holiday homes, and this area the areas that we represent, that I represent, and that I live in, has now been realised to be, that's a beautiful area. Let's start investing into it, because on the views of the very wealthy, because I'm not talking about individualism here. I'm talking about people who have vast ways of money and they can come in to the area.
I must say, I have absolutely zero accumulated wealth. In case anyone thinks I want to state this before people start. I have zero accumulated wealth. Just to be very clear on that.
And I want to be very clear too on this, right? Because I know people will text in. Yes, many, many, many years ago, I worked extremely hard and worked my bollocks off, as you said, right? And I accumulated a few pounds, right?
Right, okay.
And I bought a small piece of land, and on that small piece of land, there is one holiday home on it now.
Oh, right.
And I'm publicly stating that.
So
absolutely,
you have a holiday home?
Publicly. No, I don't have a holiday home. I sold land so I could then try to buy a home for myself.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Just throw it at the start.
I've never
but
had
can
land.
I be very opportunist?
I've never had land, nor have I never sold land.
Well, I do. I'm very, very lucky. I do have land because my father left me land and an old auntie has left me land.
And I am so
it's
pleased
not a wild
for you.
pile of land,
and I'll tell
but
you,
it's still my land.
And I would be very upset if the county council or the government tried to come and take that stuff off you.
Well, for me, because of my ideological position, and hence that I am a communist, and if there was a revolution in the morning, I would have no difficulty to give up whatever 5-6 acres I have.
Wow,
none whatsoever.
Well,
none whatsoever.
The thing is
can I be opportunist?
We'll never have to prove that. Very briefly, if
Can
you don't mind.
Well, yes, and just because I know the conversation's come to an end, I think we need to listen to what Tom is saying. I think we need to listen very carefully what Tom is saying.
Yes.
I think there's quite a merit in what Tom is saying. And I think we need to have a very open, frank discussion around that there. But going back to before we finish.
Which is what we just did.
Which we did, and it's healthy, and I love it, right? I absolutely love it. Tomorrow, we're having a public meeting on neutrality in Anagra at 7 o'clock if people can come along. And then on Friday, we're having the drama backed by popular demand at 7:30 doors on Bisha. And it's mostly the cast and written by those involved in CU Burn. Now, there's been opportunist for you.
My hoop, take care.
Thanks, Greg. Take care.
The 9 till Noon Show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
Irish Hospice Foundation's Information and Support Line is a confidential service, providing information, support and resources on end-of-life care, advanced care planning and palliative care for anyone caring for someone with a life-limiting illness. Available 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday to Friday. Free phone 1800 60 70 66 or email support@hospicefoundation.ie.
There's any number of new cars out there, but do the numbers add up? With the stylish Peugeot 2008, Fastback 3008 and spacious 5008 electric and hybrid range, they really do. You'll enjoy up to €1,500 trade-in bonus, a free 3-year service plan, a 5-year warranty and a free home charger. Order your 252 Peugeot today at McGinley Motors, your main Peugeot dealer in County Donegal. Offer ends June 30th. Terms and conditions apply.
Who's watching your home while you're asleep, at work, or on holiday? With the Sheridan Security Alarm System, you can be assured of round-the-clock monitoring. Our central monitoring station is on duty 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, monitoring homes and businesses in the northwest for intruder, fire, panic, and medical signals, giving you the peace of mind you deserve. Sheridan Security Systems, Bonagee, Letterkenny, protecting what you value most. Call us for a free quotation on 9126. 6025.
Here at Braden's House to Home Interiors, Moville and Bridgend, we stock recliner and fabric suites, dining tables and chairs, beds and mattresses, curtains and rugs, and don't forget our large flooring department stocking carpet, vinyl and laminate flooring. We can't be beaten on price or quality and give a weekly delivery service to Donegal, Derry and Strabane not to be matched. So call in today to Braden's House to Home Interiors, Moville or Bridgend for all your home furnishing needs.
Print Supplies and Frosses delivers managed print solutions that save you time and money. With remote servicing and local support, we take the hassle out of printers and photocopiers. Stay efficient, stay supplied. Email sales@printsupplies.ie today. Print smart, save money, trust local.
The 9 till Noon Show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Simplify your debts with a debt consolidation loan from Letterkenny Credit Union. Call us on 074 910 2126 or apply online via our app or in office today.
Dreaming of the perfect wedding? At Jackson's Hotel Ballybuffet, we make dreams come true. Our stunning fin suite with private entrance, sweeping staircase and terrace views offers a romantic setting for your special day. From intimate gatherings to grand celebrations, our dedicated team ensures every detail is flawless. Say I do at Jackson's Hotel, where love stories begin. Visit jacksonshotel.ie today.
Make more meals for less with Dunnes Stores, where you'll save on ingredients to make delicious hot dogs. That's an 8-pack of Irish pork sausages, just €1. Cooked in a pan before serving in buns, 6 for just €1.10. Delicious with your favourite toppings, all from the Dunnes Stores range. Plus, you can save at the till with a 5 off 25 grocery voucher. Dunnes Stores, always better value. Terms and conditions apply. Voucher can be used on next in-store grocery shop of €25 or more.
It's the Right Price Tiles wood flooring and bathware 70% off sale. Get up to 70% off all your purchases. Up to 70% off all tiles, all wood flooring, all bathware. Everything's reduced in store. The 70% off sale at Right Price Tiles wood flooring and bathware. Stores nationwide. Sale now on.
30 years of magic, 30 years of passion, 30 years of unforgettable performances. Riverdance 30, the new generation, is coming to the Gaiety Theatre in Dublin for a limited anniversary tour. Join us on Thursday the 28th of August to experience the rhythm and pure magic of Riverdance, live in the city where it all began. Luxury coach transfers, overnight accommodation on a bed and breakfast basis at the 4-star Grand Canal Hotel in the heart of Dublin. Fantastic seats to the show and free time to explore all that Dublin has to offer. Spaces are limited. Don't miss out on your chance to witness this iconic and unforgettable show. Contact us today on 9125,000 or check out The Outlet on highlandradio.com to book your place now.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhenney's. Get set for summer with all new arrivals dropping every week, from fashion to footwear and homeware to cosmetics. Discover more in-store or shop online at mcelhenneys.com today.
Plenty of sunshine, mainly dry, just a little northerly breeze, but little cloud will drift in at times. We've seen that over the course of the last few days. Chris Ashmore is with us. Chris, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Greg.
Simple question to start off with. Do you have a food business idea? Lots of people seem to have.
I don't personally, but yes, good question. If you do, well, you might be interested in the next food starter program. Now, this is run through the local enterprise office. Basically a chance to sort of see what's involved if you wanted to set up a food or a drink manufacturing business. Now, this doesn't start until September, but, you know, sometimes it takes a while to think these things out and whatever. So look, if you go to the local enterprise website, you can find more details on that, and it's a good platform. And as we know, there's lots of great small enterprises out there in the food and drink sector here in the county, and long may that continue.
Yeah, and lots of support there, and all over the place. And there's a clinic coming up in Dunfanaghy too soon.
Yes, there's they call it an in-person business support clinic. It's in Dunfanaghy at the end of June. Again, a little bit of advance notice. So if you're in that part of the county, it's a chance to get an overview of just what supports and services and help is out there, and a lot of people will be pleasantly surprised that there is a helping hand there for getting you just those early stages and getting off the ground with something.
Yep, 70 local charities are going to benefit across the country from a 1 million fund. Why not one or two from Donegal?
Indeed, AIB has launched, it's called the Community Fund, and the beneficiaries in the past have included the Blue Stack Special Needs Foundation here in Donegal. So if you go onto the AIB website, or indeed inquire your local branch, there's details about how you can nominate a registered charity to get a slice of that pie.
Listen, if you're a charity, get on to your followers to advocate on your behalf too. Use your social media. Donegal Women and Business. Does this mean, is this to do with the longest day of the year?
Well, not really, no.
Okay. No, my point being is I don't want to talk about the longest day of the year in any context.
We're not.
But
going
that
to
being
talk about
said, I don't want to be reminded it's coming. But anyway, listen, I'm going to be, because there is a Donegal Women in Business event.
Yes, they're hosting a summer solstice leadership evening. That's what it's called. And it's before they have their summer break. The Donegal Women in Business Network, they have a guest speaker called Marie Gleeson. She's a former Irish Navy captain and now very much a sought-after speaker. She's a leadership coach, so it could be a very interesting evening. The venue is Oakfield Park in Rafo. It's on Thursday, the 26th of June, and great for networking and finding out more there.
Yeah.
And mentioning Oakfield Park this weekend, a big drink and food and craft fair on there over the weekend. So let's hope the weather stays good.
There might be showers,
that.
but for the most part, there's a lot happening this weekend, and the weather's not going to be terrible. Don't be discouraged.
No.
Restaurant of the Year awards.
Yes, these took place in Dublin, and great to see a number of local enterprises doing well here. The Old Glen Bar in Glen. Kieran Sweeney there, a fine restaurant. Best chef for Kieran Sweeney there, so well done indeed to him. And Martin Anderson of Sonder in Letterkenny for the best use of social media. So a couple of awards here for the Northwest. Yeah.
Right, what's coming up on this week's podcast?
Well, just before that, best of luck to Seabound Engineering. Now, we featured them on the show here before. They're based in Greencastle. They specialise in aluminium vessels, particularly for the shellfish industry, and they won the Donegal Enterprise Awards last December, and they are at the National Enterprise Awards, which
one of
are
their vessels
on this week.
And they are very impressive.
Yeah.
Right, let's get to the podcast then.
Yes, so the podcast this week, I've been speaking with Fáilte Ireland's Joan Crawford, who's the Wild Atlantic Way manager here in Donegal. So with all this bright sunshine, topical, spoke to her to get a snapshot as to where we are in terms of tourism in the county, how things are at the moment, what's coming down the track, all sorts of things happening. We're going to get the spin-off from the Open at Portrush, golf very much in the news, and Highland Radio's Sean Quinn indeed was at the launch of, there's a new golf brochure out featuring all the golf courses in Donegal. So in this clip that we can hear from her, she's been speaking about, how over in recent years with people going online before they go to a destination, a lot of people come here already knowing about some of the big ticket items, and then the whole thing is to sort of keep them here and also for them to discover things that they're not aware of.
Yeah, they'll come with their bucket list. Like, they'll come, I want to do Fanad Lighthouse, I want to do Glen Bay, I want to do, the Slieve Lakes, they want to do the iconics. So for us, it's about creating the experiences around those iconics as well. But I think people are pleasantly surprised. They always feel as if they didn't allocate enough time when they come, because they see then there's so much more to do. So hopefully that entices them back for that second visit. But for us, you do need those flagship attractions to pull people in first and foremost before you can get them dispersed around the county.
On the one hand, Donegal has so much to offer. We're relatively underdeveloped, but we do have a capacity to take a lot more people in.
We do have capacity, but one of the big things for us going forward is it's not going to be about volume. Volume tourism isn't necessarily where we want that quality tourist that's coming, that's going to spend more and stay longer, and it's about that staying longer for us is really important. So it's important that we work with the industry to create those smaller experiences that keep people in areas for longer.
Yeah, for sure. It's all about staying around and spending, but you need a hook, don't you? And we've got loads of hooks, but there are gaps then too in certain parts of the county, and people approach things differently. I don't think I've ever planned anything prior to going somewhere, but I haven't gone anywhere since before COVID. But lots of people like to plan stuff out, and that's why the Wild Atlantic Way, I think, was so successful, because it was very easy. And then you've got surprises, right? But you've got the basics there. You've got the basics tenure of a 3 or 4 day break.
And of course now, because you can go online and look at the things, you're going to see YouTube videos. There's all sorts of drone footage, and
this is why
it really
I focus
enhances
so much about the toilets, because it's at that point where you see the Google review of a set of toilets and it's 1 star, wasn't open when I was there, it was a disgrace. And those are the things that the local authority and the government need to be getting right to support the industry, because people do factor those things in.
Absolutely.
And you do all of that in advance. All right, brilliant stuff. Chris, the podcast is available now. Have you clicked the upload button? we're good to go. And so you can stream it right now on our website or any stage that you want. There's a massive back catalogue of fantastic podcasts there, by the way. If you have any interest in business or even just the people involved in business or the people of your local community, there's hours and hours and hours of quality listening there. And Chris, it's also broadcast at the weekend on Sunday.
That's right, Greg. It's on just after the 6 o'clock news on Sunday. And if you want to contact the programme...
I'll ask you that. What if anyone wants to contact you?
Well, you can email me on businessmatters@highlandradio.com.
Good stuff. Are you going to head away yourself at all this year, do you think?
Prague, going to Prague.
What is that? That's a city break, isn't it?
Yeah.
And what is there to do?
Well, funny, I was looking up stuff online just to get an idea.
We're talking like visiting architecture. And
yes, and going to do a couple of day trips out, and just it's a part of Europe I haven't been to at all.
And what's the food reputation like? Is it?
I'm not too sure on the food, but it's a big city, so there's going to be plenty of choice. Plenty of choice.
I think, which is the city you can fly into in Spain? I took Lee over a few years ago. Valencia, is it? I don't know. Anyway, it's kind of a city, but it's on the beach. It was quite nice. All right, Chris, thanks very much for that. We'll chat to you next week. I do appreciate you calling in and seeing us. That's Business Matters, available as a podcast right now, broadcast after 6 on Sunday. Listen, thanks so much for listening. Thanks to those of you who watch the show. We appreciate your calls.